Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Are we good? We were live and running?
Live. We're running. We're on
Cool.
both channels right now.
What's so it's all chopped up on mine because we're on the mobile. What is showing in the screen? Are me and Angela both? Oh, there we go. I got you. Cool.
So I can do it split screen like this, and then it's like closer, so it's just the two screens colliding with no background.
Yeah.
I could do it like, just different versions. And
yeah, fly through this a little bit. Let it be a little bit of a tutorial here because we're all learning this shit. People who are trying to do this stuff. So.
All right, so check it out. My name's Frank Castle, your Sorcerer Supreme. It's turning into any night of the week, anywhere you find me, standing in my space. I'm joined by Angela Miller and Aaron Kessler, and we're the FearLess family. We're wait, let me get you guys in here. We're part of the greater all of it, right? And we've been having experiences after experience, and one show a week just isn't enough. And it's not even about doing a show; it's about taking the information that we're getting and expanding on it, and discussing it live with everyone as the gnosis is coming through, and you're getting us on the topic. So we're just rocking and rolling right away, and we're like, you know what? And I felt this last night. I was telling Aaron before, like, we're gonna pop through a layer, and we're just gonna be like, come on, let's just do this. Let's just do this all the time. Let's just do whatever we got to do. Let's just go. Because it's going to be a rotation of us. It's not like just Frank Castle, whatever. So this is FearLess Conversations. The safe, sacred space has arrived, right? Starship FearLess is here with the FearLess family. Shout outs to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Oh, we got a bunch of people watching already. Yeah, greetings everyone in the chat room. So here we all are. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
I'm in New York. Where are you guys at?
I'm in a new me.
Yeah.
Seattle, geographically.
That's awesome. Once again, the technology that was going to be used against us, Aikido move, we used against the system and the artificial intelligence and anyone else that's got a problem. And we connect with like-minded individuals that are pilgrimaging. Am I saying that right? On a pilgrimage to, like Angela, to anchor light in the grid. To me, being in the Bronx
and in the gut,
right? And
yeah.
Being against a ley line, and of course, Aaron, Space Jesus, baby, awesome, the son of the sun.
And look at that, Space Jesus has got some green crack because they sell it here in Washington State. Don't even got to grow it myself. I used to have to sling this stuff myself, Space Jesus, but now it's grown for me. Buy it from the dispo.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that absolutely fantastic?
It's wonderful. Angela, you tell them. We spent an hour in there.
It's a fascinating experience, and the rest of us in the world that don't get to have that experience, we're robbed of our divine rights.
No doubt, especially the way they've done the marketing and stuff here. They have a lot of options. They do a really good job.
And the joy that comes across when people talk about it.
The bud tenders.
The different medicines and how and what their effects are. It's stunning. It really is. And we deserve it all of the time.
Okay, and that is a good transition into where things are changing. So the most recent interview with Joe Rogan and what's his name, Paul Stamets, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I think there's at least 20 universities already have FDA approval and are already undergoing psychedelic human trial studies. This next coming up year, it's going to continue. Sorry, just got a call. It's going to continue. Just toppling all the counties that are approving the decriminalization of psychedelic medicines and things, where it's not so much that the way he explained it, which makes sense. It's not so much that the law hasn't changed. That's a harder thing to do. But what they've done is defunded all criminal activity or defunded. So the police aren't going to arrest somebody that they'll just turn back into the streets. They're not going to fund the attorneys to prosecute people getting caught for plant medicines and things like that. So that's the decriminalization dynamic of it. So all that's just holding, right? And if you want to look at an esoteric level, the systems of domination control, the morphogenic fields they've upheld for millennia, countless millennia. The most recent iteration is the 6,000-year history, and all the ancient texts they say is our history. But it's all crumbled. 2012-ish, if we want to put it that way. It doesn't matter. It's the coalescing of all the cycles, which is all the images I've shown you. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But what we were talking about was the overbrain, right?
All right,
okay, so The oversoul, traditionally, I think in the New Age spiritual side of things, right, is our over self, the cloud of all our incarnations, right? Our oversoul, our higher self can be our spirit, kind of an interconnection in between, which mind, greater self, wise self. I like wise self. That resonates. But to me, so we have our body, which is of the earth. This is Mother Earth's body, right? But we're having an experience in this body via our central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, and our vagus nerve, which is the tree of life. And the tree, it's in all of us, which is the singularity and the point in the heart. And through the heart, and through the cerebral spinal fluid and the central nervous system is our spirit, our higher self, or wise self, that communicates with us. And then on a more pure level, and in the Christian dynamic would be Christ, I guess, the Christ in you, your wise self, right? Which is all cerebral spinal fluid process, which is Kundalini rising, which is baptism of the Holy Spirit, which is, they're all the same thing. It's an actual physiological process that stimulates your spirit, your nervous system, which creates an increased amplitude and frequency and resonance with your wise self. And then you want to pursue that lifestyle, because who fucking wouldn't want to do? Sorry, how much can we swear on this? Maybe we should keep the tone down.
Well, we're on YouTube, so I don't know.
Oh shoot! Hold on, switch to the phone. Oh dang. Okay. Well, pay attention when we start talking again. When I got a call, it switched from the speakerphone to the phone, and I don't know how I'm going to fix that right now. So when I finish this, we'll have to really listen to what you're saying. I'll figure it out and you can talk. And then our soul, the oversoul, would become through the heart. This is in a lot of the text that the life of the soul is in the blood, right? So the spark in the heart that comes in through that Fibonacci frequency, infinite recursive fractal pattern every time our heart beats. And then that stimulates the cells in our entire body, our entire physiology, to then tune into our soul or oversoul. Okay, but our body itself, so that's all like, I feel like pre-established summary of my understanding of what's kind of already out there, and then my own overlay on it. But then the overbrain would be breaking down the body more. So our body is if you break down the three brains, you have the heart, which started in the first few cells were the heart, then the heart split off in the nervous system up to the brain and to the gut simultaneously. So if your heart's number one, then your brain and your gut are both number two. But it's the three brains, and those two fractal down to the heart. So the heart being the center point for everything, which we'll also get to on those diagram things. So the overbrain being the three of those things, creating the mind potentially. And that's kind of where we left off. So please continue.
All right, so one of the quick takes. Can you guys hear me?
Barely. I'm going to turn on the speaker.
Fix your thing, and I'll explain it. So one of the things that we were talking about right before we started and before we went live, and I was saying, okay, so the last few nights I've been talking about gut health and how it relates to using discernment with your heart, and then using your mind logically for whatever you got to do, right? So as they were talking to me, I thought for a moment, like, how does this work? Is it like 1, 2, and 3? And I'm like, because we have three brains. That's really what we have. And then I was thinking to myself, all right, three brains, and then how it connects to the heart, right, being like the center point here, but then how we look at certain, where we hold our judgments and our misery, and it's like in our gut, right? But your gut is like the lower brain. What if we just had one brain? Like, it's just one brain, and then they went, or I say they, I don't know, right? We can have theories across the board with this, but they chopped a section here, a section here, and a section here, and they separated one here, and one here. And the job is to keep just all three clean and running and have the connection, because it's honestly really one thing. And that's what's really most important. Is having that realization that your gut is just as important. You trust your gut instinct, right? You open your heart, and then you use your mind to think, create, do stuff like that.
So Frank,
what's up, man?
I caught parts of that, and I could tell it was beautiful. It felt right. But I don't know what another way to do this except calling this part one. I got a phone call that came in, and I ended it, but it screwed up my mic. So I don't know if we have to
Alright,
do
so
this and start another one, or I can try it. It says I
you
can
have the
leave. If
link.
I leave,
I'll
can I enter
continue.
back in?
Yeah.
All right, let me try that and see if it'll fix it.
All right. Yeah, so this is all experimental. We just wanted to because we've been going through this. I've been having the psychedelic experiences with no psychedelics, like completely out of control, but in control. You know, like all you can do is breathe and go through the experience, whatever that may be. But then all this knowledge and information starts to just come forth, and it kind of splashes in your face. See, they've been doing ayahuasca, and getting into that zone. So as we connected, it instantly just flared into this immediate conversation that needed to go live on air. And I can't take that part of the conversation. Wait, look at this.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Disco.
Can
All
you
right,
hear us?
cool. Yes,
Perfect.
we're
All
good.
right. So we were discussing with the audience. Thank you, by the way, everyone that's listening. The overbrain, right, or the one brain that was split perhaps into three, right, and one for your mind, your brain, and then your heart, and then your gut. And it's important to have all three running properly. And like you need good exercise and meditation, and gut health, and you got to keep it all because it might be all one. Because we know it links together, but it literally might have been one thing that they took and separated. We don't
Yes.
know how this works just 100% yet. But
Yes.
then here's what I wanted to tell you guys before we went live. Now we're up to that part. I've been having this weird thing with Paula. Like we are individuals that come together as one. So we're the loop in the cycle, right? So she's always like, listen, we're going through these points like in the middle of the hourglass, right? And you can't take the 50-pound backpack of BS with you, your nonsense and your drama and your injuries. Like you got to heal that stuff and you got to get rid of it so you can pass through light, because you're made of light. You got to go through the point. And I realize in that figure eight, in that loop, the point that everyone's discussing is right. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the spot.
Infinitely. Yeah.
Right.
Singularity.
So
Yeah.
we're about to pass through one into a complete new loop, a complete
Yes.
cycle. Right. And then what goes around comes around. Right. It's
Okay.
all as above, so below.
Now, Frank, take that from linearly from left to right, right? After that singularity, though, it's all unknown. There's no loop to come back to.
Oh no! You create all the next loop, and then
No, exactly. So if you're gonna change the imagery of that metaphor of and if I had, there used to be a whiteboard here, I draw it out. But so instead of that loop going, try to see how it show up on camera. Is that going left to right? So we have the loop on the left-hand side, the past, going to the future, the singularity in the middle would be a 2012-ish, whatever transition, the solar flare, all that shit, whatever, right? And we'll talk about that more if we get there to that point. But the singularity, after that, it doesn't continue in a loop. There's no even understanding quite yet of what the fuck's next. Like we don't know. It really is completely unknown.
Well, that's the idea.
Can I add on to that? Because it's the super brain. I would like to bring it back to that. The super brain, the infinite loop between our gut brain axis.
It goes through the heart.
So we have the central point of the heart. We're in this ever-changing cycle of emotions and experiences. So that is part of our super brain element, our eternal cycle that is us. So I think what you're trying to get to is as soon as you meet all parts of your cycle, of your infinite awareness in your heart, via your heart, then you begin to have that super brain experience, which I think what you're getting to, Frank, as I understand our year of incarnational births way of thinking, is that it's a geometric form.
Yeah,
I feel that you're seeing the geometry of it.
The tree behind you, the tree of life, Idrisil, right? Looks like a mushroom, right?
Yeah.
It also has a top nub, right? That right where your hand is up there, top nub, and then a bottom nub, which is roots into the ground, right? So
Yeah.
if I was to grab an object, if that didn't have the pathway in the middle, it was just one, let's say, spherical object, and I grabbed it and pulled on it and created that, it would be 3 hubs. It would be a top, a middle, and a bottom, just like the super brain being cut into 3 parts.
Yeah, and look at the picture too. So you've got in here would be the heart, the white, the tree of life, but then down here you've got these 7 stones, right? You've got all the different chakras. So it's pulling, and the rays of light coming up through the nervous system, branching out to the peripheral nervous system, and then the brain. But so opposite 7 colors being integrated all the way through, right? Whole and whole.
So that comes into the trinity of our being. Those 3 elements.
Look at that. So it's like we're witnessing the hyperconnection of the 3 parts. The sum total of the whole.
Yay! Yippee! I love that. The sum total of the whole through our heart-based experience.
Can you pull up that image, the last one, the very last one I sent you, with where I drew the heart on the end of it, on the right side, and the green and the magenta?
All right. What I'm gonna do is, let's see. Let's see the last one you sent me. Okay. Just give me one moment. You can chat away for a moment while I share the screen up.
Don't tell me to do that.
So the heart's one of the most common places where that part of ourselves, where we have housed those infinite skills and gifts, is the vagus nerve, which is part of that gut-brain axis on a technical level.
It's the primary core of it.
Yeah.
It's a trunk.
Yeah. So when most children are brought into the world, they do experience a disconnect if they've been pulled out by their head,
forceps,
the forceps or ventouse, or some C-sections, they don't get the full cranial squeeze through the birth canal process, and that can cause problems at a very basic birth, being born into this world.
Being why we don't remember those memories because of the trauma blocking it off.
Yeah.
Because I'm really convinced that we should be able to, at whenever we wanted a moment's notice, recall any moment in time of any day of our life. I mean, a random day on the calendar, that those memories are there. Those morphogenic fields were created when we had the experience. They're intercellular memory, but in some level we're blocked off from it because of the trauma. And that's part of the shit, which we'll get into, Frank. Some of the DMT experiences I've had recently and over the summer, a lot of those were birthing traumas that I was reliving in my psyche, but also in that place, but also present. And it was absolutely horrific and awful. Man. But it's worth it. It moves stuff through, not just in the psyche and the experience, but if you understand what's going on, that you're also allowing it to connect with your entire brain and your spirit and your soul and your body. And you're also moving stuff and you're disconnecting things in your gut from your cellular wall so that it releases also.
Yeah, part of that brain axis.
Right. So it's not just a psychedelic experience. It's also, I mean, it's a plant derivative, and it's more of a pharmaceutical in a sense. It's arrived down to one molecule, and you smoke it that way or with flour. But it's still a plant medicine, a plant derivative. There's a plant resonance in it that's resonant with the earth, that's resonant with our bodies. So it's not just a psychedelic effect. And I don't know, I haven't thought too much about Lucy and that dynamic, but definitely mushrooms. I mean, that's endlessly becoming abundant, how physiologically beneficial that is, way beyond the psychedelic experience, which in it alone can be life-changing, but the actual way it changes the body, you know, and a whole bunch of other plant medicines, let alone the variations of THC. And you said ramble, I'm done rambling. Did you find the photo?
I think so. I'm going to bring this up and it should be in the full screen.
Yeah. Cool. Can we make that big, all the way as big as possible?
I don't have it downloaded, so you know what?
Can your computer pinch and zoom? Pinch and zoom. I don't know how to do it with a mouse.
All right, you're going to have to go back to rambling. I'm going to check on it.
Pinch and zoom generation.
Yeah, Frank, just do that.
Yeah. Our thumbs are built differently. They function.
No, you mean like this on the keyboard? Like this? That's why my mom does the office work. Because this is how letters get written by my stepdad. No, because she can use her hand. She can type. See text. Actually, he had a voice translator. Works really well. The Dragon software, I think. Speech to text. I love the
Okay,
back.
I think.
It got worked out.
See, when it blows up, it's what?
Yeah, it's a little distorted.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's fine because I can explain it. We don't need to be able to read it, but that helps. Okay, cool.
Sorry it took so long, guys. I'm just learning how to do this stuff, so just bear with us, and then it'll pick up as we go.
You're teaching me too. No, I appreciate it.
I know,
Sorry, this needs to be lit. So on the left, you have another diagram we can show later. Is the 12 dimensions, the actual experience of any universal experience we've ever had. All of us, our soul history in any part of the universe, this matrix, this construct, the code, the fractals, the other species, anything and everything is to the left. Okay, and then we've got, you see the outline there of a profile of a pregnant woman. You see her breasts and you see her womb and her tummy, and you see it fractaling down, spiraling down to, so this is the galactic womb, and then down to the solar arena, down to the planetary arena, down to the personal embodiment, and then down to the internal arena. And then the last part there is the heart. The last thing I think of the gut and the brain, but the singularity in the heart. To the right of that is the fucking unknown, man. But that's the solar event to me. That is to me.
It's the singularity across the board.
Yes, it's internal. You know,
it's not collapsing of all the timelines to fit through that one little hole, which is what I was doing, the figure 8 thing.
Yeah,
we're passing through that point, so it's like a fan that or an accordion that had opened and now is closing to make the song work.
Yeah,
right, and then
it's all coming to a close.
Yeah, it hits ground zero, to so to speak, and then poof. We don't know, but see, that's the thing to me. I'm like, I know we don't know, but the idea is awesome for us.
Yeah,
right? Like it just means okay. So here's another thing.
No, please. I would just want to emphasize how wonderfully you said that. We don't. The thing is, we don't know, but we don't know. But how awesome it is for us. Yes, it really is.
That's the 110% thing that's going to happen. Is it's us, and it's going to be us transforming in some way, consciousness, metamorphosis with the human experience as well into what a true human is meant to become. When the creator comes and inhabits one of the bodies, when it changes into the enlightened ones, the ones that anchor the light. Okay, so everyone that knows me and has heard me talk, you see first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? So those are densities. They're also dimensions. They're also keys in a octave. So 1 through 12 is 1 octave, so you'd be playing from C to almost the letter before on the octave on the piano. You'd be playing across, and then it restarts again at 13, being 1 again. So when I make jokes and say I'm from 15, this is the diagram I'm talking about.
Okay, like, so Frank, you're 15. I think 15 for you, and I think this is what it is for everybody. It's the point we're supposed to get to. This is the point we can tap into a certain intelligence, whether we're realizing that's what we're doing or not. It's that singularity in the heart, in your own heart. 15, right? And from there, there's a level of condescension still of our infinite future self, that there's some reality of the fifth world of peace actually is anchored here now through us, just because we're physically here, let alone that we're putting these actual vocal vibrations out through the airwaves, through the AI. All that stuff it doesn't know what to do with us, so it just doesn't bother. It just can't do anything about it. It expends its resources where it can still suck energy from things easily, and that's not us at all. Not anymore. It really isn't.
So, Frank, you've really hit upon a subject that most people will not get the opportunity to hit, because this awakening and super brain enlightenment that you're speaking about on all levels there is happening, and it's not being televised. People are reporting and spouting out the same old rubbish over and over again.
Angela,
and it's also fresh for now.
I'm going to show you how awesome we are right now, because as I'm looking at this, right, so the enemy that binds us in the worst possible way, that victimizes the entire planet Earth, that's not a human, right? Like what we're just going to say there, where it says fourth, right? They rock from like 1 to 4, but you see, you see how small that is on the scale, right? So when I say I'm from 15. I'll be yelling at a reptilian like, dude, you rock 4. You can't go to 5. You don't even know it exists. So the AI and that octopus that everyone's scared of, and the hyper intelligence that wants to eat humanity's guts.
Yeah, now
and
check this out.
transform
Check this
into-
out. Check this out.
That's all just right there. Look at
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's also a breath. It looks like
Yeah.
a head breathing outward, and
Yeah.
then it ends with the heart, and then it's gonna all come back in
Yeah.
It is.
like the God breath.
Yes, and it's the expansion of expansions.
Yes. Right. Look, and so all right. So Aaron, I feel kind of weird, but this one picture, literally, okay, if I would have had this day one, I would have just been using this.
I know, no doubt, huh?
Episode 1,
Yeah.
and just going, okay, once again,
doubt.
metaphorically it works, across the board it
Okay.
works.
And the way it works too, the practical ways too. So all the things that help you cycle down, because this can metaphor down. That's on a cosmic level, our highest level of consciousness and soul history, and any level of awareness we have within this holographic reality that we live in or have access to, whatever. All condensing down into the solar, planetary, inner arenas. That can overlay on more simple things, right? The more we clean up our physical life, changing the water, filtering out fluoride. I mean, there's consciousness changes that we have to have in our psyche to be open to desire the healthy things for our body that rewrites our neural pathways. So a lot of it's just submitting to the healthy practices we know we could or should be doing, but without shaming ourselves. It's okay to should yourself, but just don't shame yourself.
Yes. Yeah, you got to just be cool with you. You got to not take it so seriously, and you got to you got to go with a light foot and just kind of work the magic a little bit. It's also a human being standing. Your feet would be first, right? Your shins would be second, your third. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And 12th being your head at the top of your crown, right?
Right.
So it's a take on. I can't. Even I have trouble with this. So, like, it's in front of us the whole time, and it's literally literal, and it's literally
and it all even through the I mean, really, if you look at it several ways. I mean, her womb, so everything comes through the womb. So even for men, it's down in the gut. Again, the gut brain. I mean, that's the hardest thing for men a lot of times. The intuitiveness, the feelings, the emotions, that's they're just even more psychically disconnected from birth and through iniquity in the bloodline, which is biblical iniquity. It's just generational transfer. We can call them curses, but it's an epigenetic expression.
Yeah, transfer is a good word. And absorption.
And with transfer, think about this. So the fact we even have this chart, and it makes sense. It's easily accessible. George Cavazos, this is all George Cavazos' stuff, by the way, and it's great. George Cavazos is a wonderful being. And I know you've told your stories too about why he's legit and how, when he tested him out on Chris's show and all that stuff. But like,
I lost it when he
Go ahead, tell it.
No, I tested him. So before we went on air, I was told, ask him if he's a reptilian. So, right. So I'm like, I didn't know him. I knew of him. I didn't know any of his work or nothing, but I knew he was the bald guy that looks like me from Australia. That's because everybody.
That's about it. Yep.
Yeah, they would snap on me, right? So you're the American version of him, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So he's talking to Chris Gio on the show, and Chris has me on hold, and I'm sitting with two guys that one I do ayahuasca with. He was like a buddy, and the other one is just a straight dude that doesn't do that stuff at all. So they're like, so how are you gonna test him, Frank? What are you gonna do? So I'm like, all right, shh, I'm gonna ground myself, and then I see him, and he looks like a little Buddha, right? And he's in a little bubble. So I walk quietly through the bubble, and I'm like shushing these two guys, and I'm on mute on the radio. So I get right up behind him, and he was wearing this glorious like little Buddha robe, and he had his back to me, and then his head completely just spins. Wait a second. His head completely spins around, and then he goes, "Hey Frank, nice to meet you. I heard a lot about you." I jumped back out of his bubble in my mind, and then it hit me in my forehead, and then I jumped out of the seat, and the two guys screamed, and I went, ah, and then he goes on the radio on the show, "Hey Frank, nice to meet you." And they freaked out, I freaked out, because they were like, "Why did you jump like that?" I go, "He did that in my head but I was in his bubble. I couldn't explain it to the two of them, but my buddy Eric kind of got it. He was like, "Oh,
okay, look, to your credit, Frank, I've heard you explain that, you know, because I've followed you, everything you've done pretty much. So I've heard you explain that 5 or 6 times. That was the best and most holistic, and you added nuances and you used words in a way that I feel like that was explained incredibly well. Well done.
On video now, so you get my Italian hands.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I can show you so much of this. All right, Aya explained to me, you're in the Bronx. This is where you're at because you're a Bronx dude. They understand you. You understand them. So it is a cultural thing to that degree. So I do at times sound like Sylvester Stallone's kid. Hey, you know, right? It just comes out. So that sounds dumb to certain people. I know it does because I've been in places where I've heard myself really get into it and the Bronx comes out and I'm like, oh, but that's how it needs to be explained. Super simplistic. So it's not that we're dummies. It's just
no, absolutely. Check this out. It's called, so think about, it's cultural appropriation. So if we're eternal beings, and the more we remember our I am selves, our eternal I ams outside of, you know, there is the I am Aaron Michael Kessler, born April 11th, 1986 in Bellevue, Washington, born through the womb of a woman, legally here through Earth Mother's body, right? That's very important. It's also very important that I'm the infinite I am, whatever that is, and that's everything, right? That's very true also. And we're condensing down. So there is a oneness there as we come into our own singularities, where there's a oneness in a way that we've never known oneness, not just a oneness of past life connections, which is there, and that's beautiful. So we need soul family here. We do. Like, I'm so thankful Angela's here.
This is all right. So last night's topic was, you know, well, I'm alone, right? So now, Aaron, you're on one side of the country.
Yeah.
Angela, you're on the other side of the world. Right. So wait. So we're alone. We're individual. I don't go to my neighbor and say any of this stuff. My mother, who is drank ayahuasca with me and had crazy experiences, still doubts 90% of what's going on. She's like, you're nuts, but I love it. It's great. But really, we got fantasy and reality. And I'm like, no, fantasy and reality are coming together. But we're grid points. So, all right. So we're like points of light on the grid. And then like Angela's going, and I feel like Angela's like reinforcing stuff with her energy.
Totally.
Like Paul just screamed, yes. Right. So yeah, because when you got here, I started to feel really good, and then it stayed. That new. I said to you, your energy is doing something here that it needed to be done. Like it needed to be added. It's like adding salt at the right time on a meal, right? You can't do it before because then it doesn't matter. It's like, what do you do?
Okay, think of it like an Arcturian. Angela, short for angel, short angel is also angles. She brings the right angles and geometry. I saw that on DMT too with Angela. Her whole geometry of her being changed. So I see the resonance of different aspects of fractals of herself. The Jaguar clan was one of them for sure. And there's different things that heal in me when I match that resonance with her. And so entheogens are a tool to help us match frequency, especially that's why depending on set and setting, right, who you do it with, your environment, you're allowing yourself to come into some form of harmonic resonance to heal your whole body, including your gut. And I think a lot of that's what's unlocking in this new era of light that we're in is by doing entheogens, where in the past it didn't unlock your gut in the ways that it can unlock your gut now. It just does.
When you and I were together and we smoked, you went really deep, and then we did when you came back, we looked into each other's eyes and did it again, right?
Oh yeah.
We hit the same musical note. That's how I describe this at the exact same time. Beep, boom, and then our eyes did this. I can't explain it. In movies, like you'll see the eye turn this way and open.
Yeah.
And then we traveled into that. Like a portal opened that connected me to you, and then it was us going, if you get there first, you have to wake me, and you're like, if you get there first, I'll wake you, and you wake me, and then we were doing that, and then I was like, aha, look who, I guess it was us, like you came here to me, so I was like, aha, it's done, and then all this stuff to remember about us, and then everything else that was going on, and I'm like, wow, so we had our own private room discussion that was like a nugget left in the now moment for us to rediscover.
So it's rediscovered because think about the beauty of unfolding of that moment. So it's not just us connecting again, just past soul history. So much of it is downloading and relating to our present incarnation's experience and understanding where we are in our level of software updates, if you will, right? Yeah. But also honoring Like, Frank, I fucking love you and Paula. I love your history. I love your cultural appropriation because you're eternal beings I've known forever, right? But to see you embodied through the culture you are that shaped your neurology, that makes you like the things you like, that you decorated the place the way you decorated it, the way you have the accent you do, and the way you use your hands. It's fucking awesome.
It is.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Italian expression is known. We want to hear that full expression. We don't want to hear, oh, I'm holding back because I can't express myself.
And then you have this British angel who could just sit there and talk forever, and you just go into this trance and soul codes activate. It's beautiful.
Both yourself and Paula are true, authentic beings, and that resonates out in both your truth together. And it's so beautiful. It really is. And I began my journey with you in New York.
I was telling Paul, I hope when you return back this way, you'll be ending it with us as well.
Yeah, I will be. But the purpose of the trip has unfolded that I've been working with water prayers for the water here. It's all of our waters. It's Earth Mother's waters, but also to reunify all soul lineages that were separated in these harsh times. So it meant that certain people grew up away from certain families and experienced not what they should experience to the fullest of their natural gifts and skills and abilities. So when you grow up sterile away from people that can encourage your spiritual growth, that's when people start to lock down inside themselves. So that was a huge kind of motivation on this trip, amongst other things.
Well, and also the soul family aspect, the separation. I mean, we knew that going in. I knew my family was one of 10,365 options, and I chose a beautiful family. I'm so thankful for my mom and my family, right? But we knew we had limited options, limited choices, and we chose that we're coming in separated from our soul family and almost any dynamic, more or less. And then there's timelines that work out to how we're going to meet back up with them. And so if we can tune into the seasons that we're in, like I spent 3 years unlocking all this stuff totally on my own, right? And super happy, content, just knowing who I was on so many levels and so many layers. Excuse me. And 80% of that was through the Christian paradigm. I mean, the majority of that unlocking and awareness, because the same parables and truths. So this is what I was thinking, Frank. Are you still there?
Yes, of course.
Okay, well, I see my face our faces on screen. There you are. Love that smile, man. I remember you outside in the lightning. We're out there. I was smoking a cigarette in the evening, and you're underneath your ficus, and you're just into your ficus, and the lightning's going off behind you. That big smile and just lighting up half your face. Those big intense eyes. An experience I always remember. So okay, look at this. So I was thinking about it. Because we've had such a different experience with entheogens, right? When your first experience, your first show, just everything you went through, like you're gone for an hour and a half on a DMT hit, your first hit, you're talking to Lucifer, you're talking to God himself. And like most people, I don't think have had that experience, right? Patterns, fractals, maybe they're unconscious for a lot of it, right? That wasn't my experience. I still get to have that experience, right? I've done DMT in various forms, probably 40 or 50 times in the last 6 months, right? Since you were the first one. Okay, it's been developing this relationship. It is a lot. It's been developing this relationship with the entheogen, though, the different levels, the different stages, and allowing it to, with my intentions going in every time. There's times I'm begging for a nice experience, because there's been some ones that are like, if it's not a good one, I don't know if I'm ever doing this again. Like that was not fun.
Wait, but then when you're done with that, it's like wearing a badge of honor.
Going through it?
Yeah, no, once it's done, you're like, oh, that's it? Oh, you mean I'm not dead? I'm back.
Yeah, okay. So there's a level of that I feel. But then the next level is like, that's great. I'm alive. I'm proud of myself. What the fuck was the reason for that? Like, it means something. It's not just like, oh, I just got psychoslapped. Like, no. What happened? Like, what? Why was it bad?
When I talk about watching my mother and Paula being raped by a reptilian and other beings, and then them being torn apart and eaten, and then they're like, you're next, and then they do it to me, and you're sitting in the room with me like, yo, like, that's crazy, right? That's ultimate fear, is you eating my mother after raping her in front of me. Well, is it the way I'm saying it that makes it soft, or from with the topic, because that was extreme. That
Okay,
I
so
had to
check
be
this out. This is
reborn,
a
and you had to help
super
me.
important point to make right here, because I imagine people are curious about this, or they will be after I say it, right? I still have yet to have any experience like that. They're very, very different for me. They're very interestingly internal and interestingly with the molecule itself in some way that I'm still trying to figure out how I'll, whatever my past lifetimes, figure it out calculation, because that's an interesting dynamic, right? Another part of it is a lot of recalibrating and realigning of this physiological vessel. You know, a lot of traumas. There's a lot of stuff, even this last time here with Angela, which I couldn't have gone through it if Angela wasn't here. She held space for me so beautifully. Thank you. And I went through, I've had a few of these. This one was the most consciously intense, where I seizure the whole time, consciously. It's exhausting. It's horrific. I'm present in multiple dimensions, but I'm present, and it's awful. And one time I was seizuring from my hips. So I'm there, I'm present. My left brain's kicking in saying, it'll be over in 5 to 15 minutes, Aaron. It'll be over in 5 to 15 minutes, Aaron. Right? So I'm fine. I know I'll be fine. It's good to know that going in. That helps you stabilize even what the fuck is going on, right? Your whole vessel is like resetting. Okay, so part of seizuring is receiving new soul codes and integrating a software update.
Yeah.
It's nice to be anesthetized for that and receive
It's
it in your
also
dream
releasing
time.
stuff trapped in your body that you can't get
Yes.
to.
Yes.
Right? When
Yes.
I have multiple bad pinched nerves, and it's almost
Yeah.
like they're playing harp strings on me, and I'm like, what are you doing to me? You know?
Yep.
That's
Crazy.
exactly it.
So and so much that, like, I know it's not, I've had my experiences where I've like been around a fire, and that's a whole other deal. The fire in itself, I understand interdimensionally why it's so important, not just our connection to our ancestors through the fire. They've all been around a fire before. That's an interdimensional portal that with no energy or effort that we have to put into it, but an awareness of it, right? But then it also transmutes like insane amounts of energy. It does so much shamaning work for you because it's transmuting.
Yeah. So the next stage on from that, where I could help Aaron, is with the physical element of unlocking the physical trauma in the body. So once you start releasing and unlocking the devastation from the core experience that somebody's had, then that increases his level of flow, his personal peace with the medicines itself. So it brings about a strong integration process. So it allows you to move through the trauma quite quickly. And what we're seeing in the medical world today is this merging of using physical or machine techniques merged with that particular medicine to achieve an integrated result. So the person has the learning, but also they have the healing from the physical integration of the medicine and the high level transmutation that you're talking
And so much
about.
of that for the physical level is like the cranial sacral, like I did on you, Frank. So like when I was at your place, when you were, oh, it was such a beautiful
right
place.
after that conversation about the lizard reptilian men doing that stuff to me and my my family, right?
Yeah.
You had to administer what you're about to talk about to me.
Yeah.
Because I was in a purple sack with these beautiful lines, and I felt like I was being rebirthed, like I was in a mother's womb, but it was gigantic to me. And then I felt your hands like touching me, and then it felt like I was being pushed through the canal.
Yeah.
Right. And then I heard the sound bar up and down, and then it was like pushing me out, and I was like, oh, and I felt brand new.
Yeah, think about this. Hold on. Just think, this is new overlay on that I noticed, on that I haven't thought about before. So that the ringing was the 528 hertz, which is the heart, right? That's what I ran all the way up and down your spine, all the way up and down your skull. Okay, so that stimulated all your cerebral spinal fluid with the heart chakra, with the singularity in the heart from your gut and your brain. And then you feeling you were in that womb being birthed through the canal. That's all that coming in, integrating into your heart. And then also what I did by touching the back of your cranial sutures on the back of your head, releasing, just allowing that flow to pulse up and down quicker. It's the physiology of it, the science of it, So that's allowing your spirit to be more resonant with your physiological vessel. That's why it's good fit therapy.
It was like, it was like my Kundalini rose and retracted back and then opened and closed. And it was like the cycle was complete. It was completing. And I was like, whoa, this is
really releases pressure off your cranial pump so it can do its job.
And actually what you're speaking about is the very first esoteric system that was tried to be kept secret from humanity, because once you're in
33
tune
vertebrae.
with that point of cyclical
Oneness.
oneness within yourself,
Yeah.
you are in your sovereignty. And they did not want people in their sovereignty. And when I say they, I'm referring to the system as it was.
Specifically, those Anunnaki douches who heightened our adrenal gland release to keep us in a fear state mode.
Exactly. Which
Thank you very much.
That's why they want you in observation mode.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They know you're getting an extra too much squirt on one end and not enough DMT on the other.
Okay, and
Because
trauma.
Aya said we're supposed to close that off and then open the DMT within us naturally and just become her.
Yes.
Yeah, because
So
we
you
are
don't-
her.
That's exactly it.
Look, okay, listen. Okay, that's an interesting thought. I had this thought. I haven't worked it out yet with Aya or processed it through yet. Make sure the chemistry is right and whatever. With people who know that stuff better than I do. Microdosing Aya, okay, based on what you just said, whether it's a small amount of rue in a capsule, which we did that in our second ceremony, and doing it in the capsules, grinding up the rue seeds, right, rue seeds, and then putting them in the capsules. that probably hit you more intense. Is that the most intense it's hit you? Not the
It
brew
was
itself,
definitely
but
concentrated.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we had the same brew the night before, and it was way more of an intense hit and longer lasting. So anyway,
So talk about your experience when you felt you were in the womb.
which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the last one.
The Aya experience?
Yeah, in the womb there, listening to the sounds.
Are you talking about the second DMT experience?
No.
Or the Aya
no.
experience?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When we were conversing, swimming.
Yeah. Swimming.
So physically, I mean, if I were to open my eyes, it'd be game over. Like my little self would take over. Everything's melting, rolling, gone, right? But when I close my eyes and find that center, I was in that place in the heart on the diagram where I'm fully aware of everything that's been for me and anything I'm interconnected with in several degrees of separation. But also turning around, if you will, to look at the future, right? And it's I refuse to use the word ineffable. I say that when I'm struggling for words. I think everything can and should have some form of words. That's our modern day metaphors, the parables of Christ and Buddha and Krishna and Lao Tzu and all of them. And of Horus and the Egyptian and all of them, all the mythologies. You know, to know us. And so to see the future is this exhilarating unknown. And I'd start to make calculations and probabilities between the swirl of pattern and texture that's something like a color, but it's not. It's something like magnetism that it's not, right? And it's beautiful. And so I start making calculations between that future and now. And just about the time I make connections, it's totally different. It's gone. It's a new swirl. It's so unknown, right? And the more we heal our traumas, which creates separation, which create us to observe us from outside of ourselves, even to heal our traumas. We'll work on from outside of ourselves on our body, but I don't want to feel that again. But if you feel it and breathe it through, like this, the DMT experience I had the first one, if Angela wasn't here, that was seizuring, slithering, but I understood what was going on. I think people get so scared because they don't understand what's happening to their body. And their psyche freaks out. We think devil, demons, we go back to like old school little kid programming, whatever imprinted us about dark things or slithering or like, you know what I mean? Cultural program or seizures or epilepsy. It's like, you know, it's Jesus, guys. It's shit. Traumas in your gut releasing or in your cellular body, somatic release. I had to go through
some. Well, I was a snake, a cobra with Paula in one life, and they're like, you guys keep with the reptilian stuff. You want to. They're like, check it out, the cobra. And I was like, wow, I lived such a good life. And then the snake man came out and removed one of us, did something to us, came back through a portal, threw it down, picked up the other one, did something, threw it back down and closed the portal. And they're like, snake man, know the difference. You're purging. You don't want to just stomp the snake because you're the snake as well, creator. And you don't make messy things like the wrong stuff. So know the difference of where this is coming from. And I was going, oh man, we're healing. Like even the cobra went through the abduction.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's all good. because
Think
you're the
about this. So like
creator, you're the
when you
owner.
make the sounds, right? So I'll do something here that could be a little unconventional. So when you breathe out, when you match a resonance, okay, when you slither like a snake, sometimes you're releasing that frequency from your DNA. It's a healing thing. You're releasing that energy, that trauma, and the morphogenic fields and the demonic spirits or entities that would attach to it. So also just by doing breathing, we know that releases DMT. We all know, you've talked about it, I've talked about it, we've talked about it together. And I've had that even in these experiences, things that I've yet to find the words for, because it's so everything, right? It's a philosophy of everything. Doesn't mean it's right, but I've got a way to word it that makes sense to me. And I'm not quite there yet, but about the breath. So breathing through the traumas, and so breathing, so ways of breathing. So breathing it to exhale all the gas from your lungs. You have to breathe, like make as much sound as you can, so you can no longer make sound through your vocal cords, and you actually get the gas out of your lower lungs. Okay, when you're doing that, you're making sounds that aren't the most pleasant. They're a bit odd, right? They're a bit like this, right?
Yeah, it's guttural.
But when you're doing that, you're matching a resonance of shit food we've taken in, chemtrail shit, lower frequency shit that those things attach. You're actually releasing that resonance from your body. So you're healing your physiology but the thing is, people like, there's a beautiful saying I heard in the church from a beautiful Angela-esque being that was in the church when I knew her. And she said that sometimes the Lord or the Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, our psyche is offended, but in order to reach our heart, to expose our heart. Are you willing to writhe on the floor if that actually heals you? Are you willing to be that undignified? You know, because I mean, that's where your healing is.
Well, you saw me. I was flopping around like a fish. Once again,
it's beautiful.
Listen, the picture from earlier, right? When you take that breath you just did, and you went, okay, how are you supposed to hit number one if that's you standing as a human, right? The breath comes in from the top, like around 10 and 9, right? It goes down your throat and then goes into the body, but then all this sediment collects like a filter for your pool or something. Right? How do you get to that stuff with the purge? Because Aya pulls it up. And what did you do?
Yep. Think about it. You've got 33 feet of intestines. So whatever Aya's reacting with physiologically, if it's a little higher towards the stomach, then that's where it's going, right? If it's a little lower towards the bowels, that's where it's going. And it's funny, you mentioned last night on your show about the people who do the colon cleanses right before they do ceremonies purge the worst, right? Like, here's why though. They're literally clearing the way for Aya to remove more shit from them than from other people. So doing that prep, people are scared again. Are you scared? Are you terrified to shit on the floor or potentially whatever? Shit your pants. Who cares, man? If you get healed in some major way, in some potential life-changing way or a significant way, is it worth it? Right? But that's what it's doing. When you understand the science of it and the physiology, it makes it easier for your psyche. For me, example, extreme for most people, but that's why I have no problem doing urine therapy. I understand the science of it, my own stem cells that I'm taking in, how the technology works.
I get it.
Me too.
I love the awkward silence after I say that every time. Go ahead. I'm super proud of myself, man. You know how good it is that I overcame that cultural programming? I feel incredibly proud of my little self.
I'm proud of you too.
You're like, I'm proud of you too. Have a good time with that.
I would lose at that game.
I'm gonna get healed other ways. I'm gonna meditate more, bro. You go have fun with that.
Oh man, that is just fun. Well, hey, listen, it is what it is, right? So if it works, it works. I know some people swear by it. So can it be wrong for those people? No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
You know, that's how we rock with that. But I can't believe how everything that we're discussing and going through just goes back to this photo again.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
As above, so below. And
so check this out, Frank. This is what I was thinking. One of the big pieces that has really settled in the last just the last few hours, really, before I texted you. That's why I texted you when I did. part of what we've been trying to figure out in our conversations, I think we talk once a month or so and it ends up going 3 to 5 hours. Talking about is the differences in our experiences with DMT, like we started talking about earlier. So your experiences, think about the metaphors you've experienced, and the real experiences. I'm not denying that at all, but it's energy coming to you in the shape of the Egyptian gods, teaching you different lessons in different ways, and other beings and whatnot, right? So that's the physical metaphor, if you will. It shows up when you go under most of the times. That's been the consistent theme or framework for most of your experiences. You don't normally run into like the apostles of Jesus or some other framework that just wouldn't work in your paradigm, your cultural appropriation for your little self. So your eternal self, all of it makes sense to you, right? But in this dynamic, I understand the Christian paradigm better than you probably ever will in this incarnation or care to. That's fine. You're born into that culture to affect, like you're talking about, people in those cultures. And so what I'm seeing is the metaphors I learned through Christianity, because I'm realizing how empathically turned on I've always been. Those were incredibly visceral to me. My meditations and worship and visualizations and prayer and those things have always been nearly 4D, if you will, right? This always been so frustrating to me that I just can't seem to break the veil with astral projection or something. I get, I'm so close on certain times and I haven't got there. And why it's frustrated me to a sense, I haven't had the experiences that you've seemed to have had. But what I'm realizing, a lot of the things those have taught you over those years are a lot of those basic things, right? Releasing anger, forgiveness, peace, releasing the extra shit in your life, the caring about the animals, man, and seeing the purpose and the beauty in that on top of everything else you're doing, and shamaning and loving people and being able to, just all that shit, I learned all that stuff through the Christian paradigm and in different metaphors through the church, the apostles, the stories, the gospels, all the parables, right? So our experiences, I feel like those things were aligned in me, whatever that means. But there's some shit, literally, in my gut and traumas in my physiology through my birthing. The forceps were used on me, pulling me out of the womb. It's like 1 of 4% of babies in the 80s that still did that. They had to break my collarbone taking me out, and then vaccines and all this other stuff that just happens at birth. And I've had some vivid memories and experiences, and some of the seizuring and stuff is part of re-experiencing that, and that disconnect and that trauma coming from that eternal bliss and that womb space that's just beautiful and soft and still, and you see your whole life and the soul contracts and the beauty of it all, and knowing that there's also the inevitable trauma of birth that you can't really prepare for, you're just kind of aware of. And so going through that portal is awful, but it releases, going through those vibrations and the shaking and being willing to face the indignity of it all, right? And then having the left brain anchoring the science, knowing 5 to 15 minutes, I'll be back. I'm not going to die. 5 to 15 minutes, I'm all right, and the things that get released in the gut. And then again, the importance of the basics, drinking water, doing castor oil or things if you need to be making sure you're having regular bowel movements after the Aya ceremonies and before, to keep the poisons now, or the things that no longer serve you, that have been transmuted. Thank you, Aya. Right? So that our cells can be freed up to do it. Like you said, she becomes us. Once all our cells are free, once our gut is clean, and it may take decades. Most of us have decades of crap, mucoid plaque buildup, anywhere from 10 to 40 pounds of stuff that has been in there since childhood.
Well, I went from 200 and my high was like 236 pounds. I'm a short dude, so that was heavy. Mm-hmm. And then it just got me to 200, and then it went to like 190 and then bounced back up to 2 a little bit, like floats in that area.
What's crazy is that 10 to 40 pounds can come out of people that look skinny. You wouldn't even know. It's like a lining in your entire intestines, 33 feet.
That's why they say, what's this coming out of me? This is what I heard multiple times this week, past week. What is this? I don't have anything in me. I'm like, no, you're loaded with stuff. You're never not gonna, like they asked me last night on the Solaris show, how do you, lock out the AI? And I'm like, you lock it out by using a sigil, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get the nanoworks landing in the chemtrails. You're going to breathe them in just like everyone else. I eat the same food as you. We go to the same places, and it's on everything. So it gets in you. No one's not going to have the stuff. Don't worry. Just get rid of the stuff.
Right.
As soon as it comes in, try to get it out.
So think about that too. Like, I neutralize
no silver bullet.
So Naya neutralizes the frequencies of nanotech and different things. And other plant medicines do other things, all the other benefits of the cordyceps and the reishi and the lion's mane and all those other parts of the body, the actual fruit body of the mushroom, and all that's actually neutralizing that chemtrail stuff. So coming back into harmony with the earth, all that stuff's taken care of. We don't need, I'm not saying you can't have tech, because we are tech. We are the highest tech. So that's what I'm advocating for, is like, look, man, if we get in alignment with Mother Earth again, not just in our heart and grounding with her. And there's so many people doing this around the world. I mean, we're just coming to our own story of awakening, right? There's so many, healthy, beautiful people who live in harmony with the land and just are like the movie, oh gosh, what's it called? Not Avalon. Shoot, it's such a good metaphor. It's the species on this planet where it's beautiful and war comes to the planet because they want to take this thing that replicates pearls or whatever you put into it. What is it?
Is it Avatar?
No, I mean, that's another one. The Valerian. It's Valerian.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, man. Okay, so think of the people, the Muir people. I don't know, the species of the planet there, and they're the beautiful species, right? They live in harmony with their land and with each other. And like, even think about their capabilities, because you think like they wouldn't survive outside of a tribal context, right? Because they're very simple, but they honored the land and the planet and the earth. And when they got stranded in that ship, even though they're very kind of a sensual people and whatever, they learned how to adapt to the roles. I mean, you saw what they did. They adapted to every culture. Like, that's what we do. That's what we're doing here.
We're bringing in neo shamans of everything, and then use everyone's best stuff as their tech, added with their knowledge, and they beat everyone's ass.
And they did it in equal co-creation. They didn't murder people to do that. They learned, they taught themselves, whereas the other ones that were coming to wipe them out were to cover up their mistake, right? That's what systems of domination and control wants to do, is to wipe originally. I mean, they would like to, but it's over now. Really, man. I'm not trying to be arrogant or whatever. We need to do our own, stand our own sovereignty, contract revocations, whatever you need to do, clean up your life, whatever Aya shows you to do, for sure. But we are in a new era of light. We're too bright for them to deal with all of us.
They haven't got manpower.
They don't. How could we be doing this broadcast right now if they did? They couldn't. Come on, man. Everything's different now. One step at a time. But man, things are good.
Oh, it's gonna get great. That's the thing. Like right now, it's like, oh, but Frank and the guys, there's still war and there's still this. Listen, I hate to talk like this, but as we anchor in the light and bring us to the optimum timeline, and we're pulling, it's like convincing the rest of the world, listen, we got to do what we got to do. We got to lift. So there's like percentages flying into our direction, right? But those other percentages are here specifically contracted to be part of that.
Yeah.
Right. When my first episode, I said, when I met Source, and Source said, look, I said, oh, it's only 80% is us. What's the other 20%? And then it just leaned into me and showed me the clones and the reptilians and, who's jumping in the bodies and who's demonic and I'm like, oh, that's nasty. They're like, yeah, that's got to go. Gotta go.
Exactly.
Right. So, but then they'll say, but a child doesn't contract that. And it's like, well, you don't know that. Right. And that doesn't make it okay. I'm like, people fight with me about this. And I'm like, I'm not trying to say it's all right.
So check this out.
We're doing this, so that stops.
Here's a good example, Frank. So your neighbor,
you don't have to accept it.
Yes. So your neighbor, for example, you said you've talked to him a few times. He's come to you about UFOs abducting him in the night or whatever, right? And you're trying to like explain to him what's going on. You looked into it, remember? And they said, back off. Yes. Like, this is our soul contract stuff, whatever, right?
I saw them. So he was one of them.
Right. No doubt. Okay. But check this out. It's extending that teaching to him. So that's giving him time to let that sink in for his little self, his left brain self, this incarnation, his neurology, right? So that sink in that concept, depending on his upbringing, how crazy he thinks UFOs are, but he can't deny his experience if it keeps happening. So he sinks that in. And then you teach him to stand in his sovereignty. If he wants to work with it, doesn't mean he has to deny them, but saying, hey, look, great soul contracts. I'm one of you, but look, I'm still a little person here who's trying to handle this. So slow down, or tonight I want to dream. Don't abduct me. Or if you do, let's talk. Don't just do stuff to me. We allowed to stand in our sovereignty in that way and teach them, even if they're not the 80%, teach them to be selves.
So one of the things is, because you're in the human suit, you're guaranteed a partial human experience depending on
Mhm.
how much control you have in your suit. In other words, like
And
what
free
you have
will
turned
choice.
on. Yes, but we don't know if their suits are activated differently than ours. Like if they
Mhm.
know. But from what I'm understanding is like you come in and everyone has to have the amnesia. But I'm curious about the clones and stuff. I'm like, I
Mm.
know they wake up and have nothing, but then they're programmed. I get confused with if they could know it, like they're down with them without them being told they are. Right. So
Yeah.
like I talked about this last night when I was in South Carolina, and when we drank, I saw all the people that lived around this lake, the Heart Lake, were actually like reptilians, but they didn't know, right? But the reptilian entrance to inner earth was right there, and we were only allowed to venture out so far. We had a contract that we could have this area, and then it got smaller as the time was almost up, and they wanted us to go. And I'm like, oh look, these beings are attracted to the area and have these lake houses, and they're just like, oh, it's a lawyer, oh, it's a doctor, but they're literal reptilians in those bodies, and they're keeping an eye on their people, and then they're allowed to make that money and do those jobs and have those houses, and they're actually protecting the entrance to an area for them, right?
Yeah.
And then but they have the amnesia as the human, so they're guided to do that.
Yeah,
Right? They
they're
don't
guided
know.
to do that. It'll be pre-programmed into their DNA, how they behave, how they function, how they keep things in the status quo at a low frequency so that nobody else can gain access to it.
Yes. Right. Like only
Right?
you guys will make that money to keep you in that peer group, but you'll be attracted to this
Yeah.
specific thing. And Ra talks about this. They can smell it. Right.
Yeah,
So
they can.
you don't know what it is. You're just like, oh, this is nice. I like this. Oh, I
Yeah,
like this a lot,
So
but it's coming in that way.
yeah.
so as far
It
as like
feeds their senses.
Yes.
so as far as like their little self goes, or what level of sovereignty do they even have? What part of human are they then? Right? I mean, that's a question in this whole philosophical dynamic of how do we respond to them? How do you treat them? It's I think it's the same thing as to you don't step on another person's journey, right? Like when you're asked to look into that guy's UFO deal, you respond because he asked. When you were told to back off, you backed off,
Yeah.
right? So what if you run into those situations, even someone at a grocery store or whatever, you see those situations or people you know a little bit, it's just tuning into what are their soul contracts. I mean, are they in a place where they can enlighten and open up, or are they totally into their own thing, or just, and then also,
But
even,
it's giving that individual a choice in that moment.
yes, and in that moment, just by our frequency being in front of them, there's a choice, but there's also the choice to engage in a way that we choose to psychically or whatever, present a door to them that they can walk through.
Yeah, are you sure you absolutely want to go through that?
Yeah.
Would be my first question.
Right.
Do you really want to do that if you could do it a different way? Might be less painful, you'll have less dream trauma, but the thing is what you're talking about the clones and the harvested dynamics. I have witnessed things where people who have had soul shards that were used in combination with technology, and you can notice these poor beings around in high technology areas. They kind of move differently. They don't have such a fluid, natural flow. They think very kind of linear, in a linear way, a bit like Minecraft, for example, or a game like that, where everything is about this linear 2D experience. That's very reptile, but not all reptiles are bad. But there is something in their DNA programming that keeps and perpetuates and stabilizes the system agendas.
Well, I was
I'll
always
make-
saying from day one, I'm sorry, that they
Good.
have it's just like in the Matrix, right? They have all the they are in front of all the doors, they hold all the keys. What they do is these beings get into positions of supervisory, right? And not basic administration roles. The head of that. So you're always going to have, you ever notice like the same people always get promoted, the same type of person, no matter how much more you work, and you're like, how come I'm doing so much more but that yet they're going this way? It's because it's built that way. They can smell their own. This is what that comes from. They're directed to do it and they don't know why. So the person that you're like, this guy doesn't deserve anything over this guy, and the bum is getting promoted left and right, and you're like, why is that? Because he's one of them. They build the structure, the new pyramids are these giant black boxes, the obelisk buildings where they put surveillance stuff, and then they allow medical on the other floors and all kinds of other.
Right.
And then you're looking at it and you're like, oh, it's like Borg cubes being put everywhere, and they're just yeah.
Well, like the black,
the perfect way to describe the system.
Well, it's all the Black Kaaba cube, right? It's all the Abrahamic religions, and the traces back to there.
Right, but then you go to get a job there, and the place is mob packed, and then you got those that are telling who what to do, and those that are being told what to do and then doing the work. So how are you getting in there? How are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a structure within it that is built.
There's two, just the morphogenic resonance of what's in their DNA. So let's say their primary presenter, their little self, has no idea that they're dissociated into parts, and they're a part of this whole structure. So they have no idea. They're living a life. They get all these promotions, whatever. They're just living their life.
Magnetically attracted to it, like magnetically.
Right, it's already magnetically, morphogenically. Rupert Sheldrake uses that term, which is a company's DNA. So it's not the DNA. The DNA is the materials. The morphogenic field is the blueprints. I believe that's the way he puts it. So the field is what's creating, especially when blood is shed. Why do blood rituals are so strong? Or your own. You want to do white magic, if you want to call it that, by adding your blood to your ferments in your own home, your own kitchen. I want to label them so other people don't drink them, but it trains the microbiome that's being created as it ferments tuned to your blood in that moment. So there's ways to do that's like, ooh, that's not scary magic. That's like basic technology, in a way that you're honoring how your system works to help it heal.
Well, I know women used to do something with their
Angela could speak on that.
Right, with their blood at
menstrual
certain
blood
times of harvest, right? Like when they were sowing the seeds and everything, they put their blood in the ground, and that would, I don't know, maybe ensure a good harvest.
Yeah, a common practice with the Maya. There were special holes in the ground as an offering, etc. But in this, for now, away from those practices, we, speaking on an energetic level, part of how we get ourselves out of the system is by reclaiming ourselves from every aspect of it. And that means refusing to have any system interconnect with you personally or interact with you personally. Because, we're taught to be external, look around us for our existence. This is our reality, when the real reality is going on inside on that level that you're talking.
So creating our George Cavassalis Buddha bubble.
It is, and you dictate rules. So, if you don't want to have things coming into your reality, then you've got to define those boundaries. Mm-hmm. And it's really quite interesting, and to look at the resolution aspect of it, because we're all here to resolve stuff. We don't have to accept karma from any other area, even from our families. We can reject the whole lot in favor of a free existence. But the thing is, as we go through these times of awakening with whatever modality or method of delivery, nobody's going to talk about it, and it's not going to be the most presented theme. So the more that people talk about their enlightening experiences and sharing that, it gives other people permission to have their own, like the stories of the experiences that people share.
Well, think about it. I mean, that's how shamans have done it forever. They're the storytellers, right? Because they have to tap into the same energy of their ancestors, but the lessons of their ancestors, and then adapt that to this next generation's culture. Now, that changed very slowly in ancient times. You could have the same tribal culture for a century before there's a slow change. And so it's been very difficult for us, because every generation, we're in a different world, the last 4 generations, totally different world. And then they disconnect our ancestors from their ancestors, like the indoctrination through the schools and putting us into the Pavlovian system with the bells and trying to make us all factory workers. And then ripping out the natives from their homeland and making it illegal for them to speak their own language, and forced into the schools to cut them off, not just from their ancestors, the resonance of the language of their ancestors. And we lose that, even just in that one generation to this next.
I was I'm thinking of how the pharmaceutical companies give us
Yes.
antidepressants, and then it separates us from like our soul. Because I was a victim for 2 weeks. I was on them when I was a kid, and they said, "How do you feel?" I said, "I can't hear my soul. I can't hear the other
Mm.
voice." So I stopped taking them, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Do something." That's when I was
Like,
just like,
you're like, you're
Some-
crazy. These pills make me stop hearing the voice in my head, and I want to hear it.
yeah, no, it took the good away, like the good guy.
Right. Right.
So I was scared and alone. I was like, "Yo, what's
Right.
this?" Right. So
Yeah.
when I got attacked here, there was like an over bubble, and they portaled into the bubble and then started doing stuff. And then I yelled for help from, our people. And then
Yeah.
they were like, "No one's coming. They can't hear you." And I was like, "Oh, they're using a tech to block it." So I have to figure out what's the frequency, right? Because they're not aware that it's occurring, and they can't see into it. It's like they do the reflection bubble back to us. It's like
Yep.
using our own thing, but using a technology to do it.
Like a
So-
mirror realm.
Yeah, right. So I do one too. I call it the Shiva bubble. I go inside and I make it like a mirror, so you can't see in. If you look, you see your reflection. So if you're dark or vibing, whatever, you see you and you run off. There's nothing for you to see here. Move on. They were
Yep.
using that against us. And I was like, oh, tech being used against the organic. That's why I'm just like the all organic guy. I'm like, with anything synthetic or whatever, I'm like, you don't need it. You can
Right.
master it. You can have the technology, and you can have your iPad and all that stuff. That's cool, but understand that you don't need like cybernetic interlinks for the internet, for the
Right.
You don't need
No.
anything like that.
Right.
Do not synthesize with synthetics.
Yeah, so you don't need it.
Yeah,
Literally
exactly.
don't need it.
So, so what you're saying, shoot, what was the very last thing you said?
Don't synth-
No, that Frank was saying. What was the last thing you're saying?
Oh wow.
I know it was a good flow. I had it too, and then I lost it.
Somebody remind me what we were just talking about.
synthetics and,
Oh yeah. The synthetics, like I'm not
organic
for
effect.
I'm not for any of the synthetics, because you're going to be able to do everything, and then by connecting to the cybernetic.
Got it. Okay, so we've talked about this too. So there's the understanding where the all understanding, like for me, the metaphors I grew up with, right? Understanding that Jesus said, "You will do everything I have done and greater things." Now in the Bible, even just in the very limited books that they have, they would just expand outside the stupid, what they think is the only Bible, to the other books that were written at the same time. Man, so many people are getting out of that. They are reading them. It's good. Anyway, he said in the books they have, it's that he walked on water, he healed the sick, he raised the dead, he did all these things, right? And he says, you're going to do greater things. So I've always, in my being, because I'm like you, I'm like Angela, or like 80%, whatever, that have done this before. Something in my being knows, fuck yeah, that's true. I know that's true. So I was in the parts of the church that always believed that was true, and pursued that. I've seen people, I've been with people I know raise the dead. I haven't seen it in front of me, but I've seen that kind of thing.
I want to jump ahead to the solar flash moment, because I've witnessed it multiple times. Wait, one of the things Space Jesus told me was like, I said, "What are you going to talk to me about your God and everything?" And he's like, "No, dude, we all know each other, right?" So I'm like, "All right." He's like, "Look, the only thing I want you to focus on is you can do everything I can do, but way more." That was what he told me, and I was like, "Oh, so like I'm the man." And he was like, "Yes, you are." Like he was. It was very. It was.
Okay,
very
so look. But that's perfect transition to this. Okay, that's Christ in you, Christ in me. You don't have to be a Christian. It's the human
he
physiology.
was like, none of the religion has anything to do with that, right?
Right.
So then
it's full physiology.
Now fast forward to the solar flash event, right? And I talked about this in multiple ways. This weird energy envelops me. It comes from the sky, and I have these weird moments, and I experienced it from multiple angles now. But the energy like takes me up off the ground, right? And I'm in a Christ pose without realizing it, because I thought my arms would fall, and they don't, as I'm being lifted, but it's the energy was talking to me, but it was doing this to a whole bunch of people. And then there was people that were scared, right? And then that was one moment. So it envelops me and lifts me, and I'm not like nailed to a cross. I'm like, it's the return of the king, baby, right? So it's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And then from the other experience was like having it here at my home. I opened the door and they're like trying to tell me stay inside, right? So then I wait a little bit, and then I hear people yelling and screaming, and I hear them laughing though, and I run out and I go to like look, and I leap, and I just go up like, what is happening? And I go up, and people are just like, I forgot I'm on the opposite side. They're leaping like this. And then cars are just stopped. People are out looking up in the sky, and it's like this pink energy. And you can see some people are kind of like flying but floating, and then just landing and then going, yeah, do it again. And I'm watching all this stuff happen, and I'm like, yeah. And I leap to my grandparents' house, which is like 6 blocks over the parkway. And I leap, and instead of when you would think you'd get nervous coming down, it was like a feather. Like I just came down where I wanted, right in front of the house at the doorstep.
Okay. Sorry.
Like,
Stop.
whoa.
You said so way too many good things. Hold on. Like there's so much good stuff there. There's like coalesce. Okay. So if the solar flash, let's make this super metaphorical here. I'm not saying it's not also literally true, going to happen in some sense. Maybe. Who knows, right? Maybe what that means. But let's take it all metaphorically, because you said Christ on the cross. Okay, that's also a picture of Kundalini. That's also, I want to take into account here, even George Cavazos' materials. He talks about something different. He talks about, I think, what he would refer to as the high heart. And is that the thymus?
Yes.
Okay. So he talks about, because the cross or the sword, right? When you come across your chest, it's actually the cross point of a being. That's what he visualizes his essence, makes his shields, his thing from. It's the spinning vortexes until it ends up being this torus field, whatever, but it's all from that point. So when we, like breathing too, and like our heartbeat, pulse vortexing in and out with that spark being the sky, lifting up our Kundalini, our psyche, our essence, our spirit, higher up into our consciousness, or our higher selves down into us at the same time. But I think that the problem with the metaphors that we've been creating as a culture, David Icke, not David Icke, who's the other one? David, long blonde hair. Wilcock, yeah, okay. So I don't agree with his, but his is super literal. He takes all the ancient texts and the solar flares come in. Well, he takes them literally accurate. He did a great job. The thing is, he's bought into an morphogenic field of a timeline that's not going to manifest. That's Book of Revelation, all that stuff, the fire, destruction, the sun, the heat, but the righteous will be saved. The elect will survive the solar flash.
It's not a rapture, and it's not a destruction. It's a
but it was.
new
But here's the
energy
thing:
in the sky.
that's a legitimate though projection that they're making. That is a real thing. It was going to be that Yahweh and ships and whatever other beings reclaiming their soul contracts and abducting them.
That's Anu.
Right?
That's what his time. That's what he wants.
Wanted.
He still wants it. He's just not getting it. I've argued.
He doesn't know. He doesn't. Anu, it's not going to happen. It's already done.
Yeah, sorry.
It's already done.
Sorry about that.
You lose.
Sorry.
No matter what you do, whatever they're trying to do, it funnels. All timelines collapse. You don't get what you want. We get what we are here for. Our purpose is to rise. So it's not like we're getting what we want. You don't get what you want. It's like, no, the purpose is this. And that's what.
Think about this too, Frank. Think about this. So the cross, death, decay in our gut and our bowels, even the Kundalini rising. So the more we literally clean our bowels through multiple means, the morphogenic fields aren't in the earth the way they are. So it's not sustaining our gut traumas the way that they used to. So they're crumbling away as it is. So there is some validity to, if you sit on a couch, you are actually going to heal over time, but very, very slowly. And it might not offset all the GMOs and all the not helping yourself that you're doing. But the world is getting better. It just is, right? More of us that heal and bring light into the earth. We find resonance with her, and we become tuning forks of her all over the earth. Yes. More people do like what Angela did in Glastonbury over the heart chakra of earth with the contract revocation, the Mandela effect revocation, which is an excellent one for people to read cognitively, to understand the words and what's being said there and how that can establish your sovereignty in ways that are unprecedented for most of us here. But it's meant for all of us, no matter who you are. Come one, come all. Jesus loves everyone.
Dude, the guy I met would be at the rave, standing next to the speaker, going, "Yeah, that's right, party." Like it was.
I did that for the first time this summer too. That was cool.
I used to do that stuff all the time. I can't take it no more because of everyone's energy. The more they rub up and bump up against me, getting their sweat all over me, like I can't do that.
It's dreadful.
Yeah.
You can't go out these days, Frank. Do you know what I mean?
It's too much now.
So I get semi sidetracked here on things that I find beautiful anyway, but I'm trying to make connection here. So the metaphors you've seen of the gods, the Egyptian gods, right? And that's been shared in a lot of people in the FearLess group and their Aya experiences. So there's obviously soul family connections, there's cultural appropriation, there's some kind of resonance feel and soul contract that's a common experience, and not just in the FearLess group, but obviously, Kristen Tree and different people, across the world or whatever. But then there's other people who've had whole other experiences, tons of them on YouTube, their DMT experiences that are just totally different. Mine have been very different. And for the cog in the wheel of moving the consciousness forward that you are, and those who hold that morphic resonance with the Egyptian god dynamic in those realms and dimensions helps progress the consciousness of the earth. The realm that I come from, the cog in the wheel, if you will, just built into my background and upbringing by nature, and what's in my cultural appropriation and awareness and my own study and research, is the Christian paradigm dynamic, but seeing how they're all the same thing. They're the same metaphors of the energy of ourselves coming to us in ways that we could understand based on the way we grew up. And so it also is going to shape our entheogenic experiences, not just in the projections we see of Christ or whatever, even in the physiological aspect of how more of mine have been, the psychic aspect is there in different dynamics, but a lot of them have been very physiologically intense. We all have different things that need to be reconstructed and realigned in our soul codes and our physiological epigenetic expression. Right, Angela?
Yeah, and the thing that springs to mind is that if there is anybody considering healing themselves with anything, plant entheogens or psychedelics, is to treat it as a sacred experience and appreciate the spirit that gives the healing, and then it will give greater healing, greater links, so you don't get the negative experiences. Most negative experiences come from not being appropriately humble in that world, because there is a lot of bull in that world, and the more humble you are and the more sacred you are in that experience, you get the VIP ticket.
Yeah, that's what I call submitting to the experience. People go,
Yeah.
I am submitting. I'm like, nah. I talked about my cousin last night. She gripped the chair and she's like, ah. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, ah. I'm like, you have to submit. She's like screaming, cursing at me. I can't believe you made me do this. Whereas my mother, she'll just throw herself back on the couch and go,
yeah,
show me.
Yeah.
Tell me you love me.
Seeing so there's,
it's so beautiful. So the
Yeah.
reverse is just,
So there's an aspect of submission to an honor, right? Especially with Aya, she's so gentle and kind. So if you want a gentle experience, she'll give you one, like you guys talked about on the show last night. So there's a level of relationship, right? Like, please don't traumatize me. And if we're gonna do it, just help ease me into it, and she does, and she meets where you're at. Most of my experiences have been DMT or otherwise, like, okay, whatever I need to deal with, whatever I need to see, whatever I need to clear, even if I have to seizure again, okay, fine. But I'm intentionally going in knowing that I may be skipping the fun stuff, if you will. I just need to there's things I need to get in alignment, and so much has happened with Angela here and the way she was able to shaman me through that in ways that if you're any concern of having a negative experience with DMT, do a session with Angela, hire her to do one with you. It's so worth it. And her energy it creates a safe space. So no matter what you've been through, she specializes in, especially PTSD, but especially for women too, right? And she's done that for a long time. She has craniosacral and some other things that she does for healing modality techniques and energy medicine and energy work. And yeah, hire Angela. She's wonderful.
This is awesome. We're all coming alive and activating and turning our greatest potentials into what it is. And from that, you will be the example within itself, right?
Now check this out.
You submit to yourself to let that occur, to let the real you out.
The millennial reign of Christ in the end times. I said, so we talked about you are Christ, I am Christ. It's Christ in us. It's a physiological dynamic. And the millennial reign of Christ is supposed to happen when Christ comes down from the sky and we meet him in the heavens. Okay, you being lifted up in this vision or in this experience you've had. Okay, we meet him in the sky. That's all physiology. We get out of our lower chakras. We get out of the things that bind us to this world, that convince us, because what's going on in our microbiome changes our thoughts. Excess candida and parasites. When you smell a burger, you're like, I want a burger. No, you don't. The parasites do, and they just release those chemicals, but you thought, I want a burger, right? So we give too much credit to our brain being our mind. Our mind is our whole body. Your heart knows. It affects then your thoughts, but your brain also has chemical processes and things that also, and electrical processes that have their own thoughts. There's 3 aspects to mind, it seems to me. It seems to work.
Yep.
Back to the 3.
And so we got separated.
Right.
And now we're going back.
And in and out, the breath up and down. So reactivating the brain with mushrooms, different things, creating the neural pathways, just changing our behaviors and habits so that we're creating fresh neural pathways. And that's spiraling out, back to center, down to our gut, to change our diet, our habits, our things, cleaning out our gut, spiraling out, back to center. So cleansing our whole overbrain to actually flow, which is another metaphor, the 3 Dantians. I mean, that fits too. So it's just us flushing it out in the language, trying to figure it out for people who grew up similar ways we did, and it makes sense to them too.
Or mathematically, it's pure spiritual alchemy, the transformation of self. The thing that man and woman has been seeking throughout the ages.
Yes.
It's all within us.
And so Christ is supposed to come for 1,000 years and reign on the earth. Okay, to minister righteousness, right walking, right alignment across the world. And there's all these other verses, but the point is it comes in man. Like, this is something some Christians might think. There's a sect of Christians would believe this. 90% of them would believe this is utter heresy. But it is what the text was pointing to. And you get rid of the esoteric overlays and the bullshit theology and the stuff they do to keep people on those locked in those patterns. In the Yahweh construct, what you see in that model too is a synthetic universe, a bubble within the universe that has angels, it has demons, it has the Satan they think is real. It's not the Satan, the Lucifer that Frank talked to. That's the actual one of the text or whatever, but the one that's created inside the Yahweh construct, not synthetic universe. There's a whole other dynamic that they're bound in. They literally cannot see beyond.
They're like the avatar of the energy, right? And then you're the energy master. Right?
Yeah.
So the energy presents itself as Shiva, because I've had this. Look, so I'm glad we're going to discuss this, because I want to say something about how I see. Because when I was unlocked, they were like, your gift is to see up and down, right? So naturally we can see down, right? You get, but I see down into the pit, it directly into the void, to the number 1 spot. Let me add this to the video. Hold on. Right, so I see from 1 to 12, no problem. Right, so it's kind of the gift when I unlocked, but I had to walk through every single energy that had to do with every color, and I'm not done naturally, to unlock the avatar to come forward, which is the avatar in me, because I'm the all. Right. And then Shiva is like, I'm going to be with you now all the time. That's it. Like, I'm with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then when I call on Shiva, he doesn't show up. And he's like, no, you're Shiva. Get it? And I'm like, oh, you're Buddha. Get it? Like, that's the big joke. But the avatar of the energy comes through forward so the adept can learn. This is where it comes from.
Yeah.
Right? So we're dealing with that on that level. Oh, so to go from 1 to 12, I have to walk through whatever the 12 demon monsters, the 60 demons of the Bible, and Yahweh's it's creeping death, and I had to approach every one of these things individually and go, get out of here, because I can't go to 12 if I can't go to 1. Like it. All right, 12 is just as scary as 1.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've never seen any of it as Frankie.
Mm.
So when Ra shows himself, I start having the first time in my basement, I start having a heart attack. My heart just, and he's like, I can't come in the room with you. I'll talk to you from here. He goes, if I come in just through astonishment alone, you will pop from my energy. Your heart will just stop. It'll go boof. And I'm like, how does that work? And he's like, your body never touched my energy physically ever before. So this is the first time. Then the next afternoon, when I get up and go outside naked and I'm sitting in the sun, he comes out of the sun and he's like, my grandfather's like, put your clothes on. I'm yelling at him. I'm not putting my clothes on. He's like, your grandmother's going to see you. I'm like, go inside, old man. And then Ra was standing in front of me, the same guy. And I was just like, dun, 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 and I was naked. And then he was standing there and he's like, what are you doing? And then as we were discussing it, I'm like, oh, now you show up and, oh, da, 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 da. And he's like, no, I'm standing in front of you. You're not having a heart attack. Right. And I'm like, oh, right. And then just to find out I am the son, I'm Ra. That's in my name, the Ra, right? But it's in your name too. It's a title you get from ascending in spots from wherever your prior ascensions have been. But you're fully aware in those. This one, you're not aware at all. This is why it's people look at the deception behind everything and they're worried about the reptilians and this and that. Yeah, that's all there in 4, right? So we point back up to 4. But look at all the other great stuff. And look, since you're the all, the avatars will come forward to teach you the energy. But then also the beings themselves, as they say, the raw consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the organic consciousness of the universe has many other beings just like us doing all those things that we're connected to that aren't you, like Arcturians and Pleiadians, like they're there, right? Inside the 4D construct, they have to come as thoughts and in dreams and in spots because there was a web around us keeping us locked in. That web is being disabled, if not completely down everywhere. They can't use that, which is when my grandmother's returned to me. My Paula's aunt has come to me and I'm like, you guys reincarnating? And they're like, why? You're coming here. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to die. And they're like, no, dummy, you're literally, the energies are coming together and we'll be here. You will be, what do they call it? We'll be spirit form, if that's an easy way to say it. Right. And then you'll have your body and we'll have full awareness of each other being here.
Yes.
Right. And I could manifest just like you can manifest. And I'm like, wait, what? I freak out from that stuff. That's the stuff that, because I can see them. They're like, so I was telling Paula this. As of last week, they were like, when my grandmother came to me during the Aya ceremonies, I smoked DMT and I saw golden light next to me right here. So I turned and she was right there. She goes, Frank, you're a shaman. And I jumped and I was like, Grandma, you're beautiful. And she looked like Lakshmi, but with Viola's face. And then she had this beautiful golden but green dress thing going on. And she was in the flower of life. But she didn't come from the background next to me. She was standing like 4 feet high. And she's short, so she was kind of like looking in at me, but not. And I'm like, what's that all about? And she goes, you're coming here. You're getting closer. And then yesterday I was telling Paula, when I'm looking at everyone watching, it's like 2 feet now. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, dude, it's an overlay. We're about to merge those energies all together. That's why you're mastering the energy, so you can have discernment on what's fake in the AI matrix to what's real in the organic reality matrix of nature. That's the real reality. Then you'll just see the reptilians. You don't need mind powers. You're going to activate yourself and you'll just go, oh, look, that they've been right there the whole time.
Exactly. Right? That's a very good way of putting it.
You want inner earth, you have to resonate at their frequency. If you can't resonate the frequency of standing like, I don't know, alone next to a spider on the wall and you're still scared of that stuff, you're not going to resonate at inner earth frequency. You got to like get through these traumas and weird things so you can play your instrument correctly.
And
yes,
so
exactly.
A lot of it is opening up your consciousness. Like, for example, the guy who can run outside naked and knows it's a little weird, but has no qualms with that. And depending on the context and understanding what was going on, has a problem with the guy who does womb therapy. right? They're different cognitive programs, and we all have our different ways that we operate in them or have grace with them or with ourselves or other people. Oh shoot, I totally lost my train of thought. Dang, that was going to be good. If it comes back, I'll get it.
Oh, I'm sure it all reverts back to that to the picture. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. By the way, this is a really cool conversation we're all having.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, right. So for those that don't know, this is Aaron and this is Angela, and they're coming from Seattle. Naturally, I'm Frank Castle, and
naturally,
we appreciate you guys coming and spending your time with us.
Okay, here's thought. So in the vision of you ascending, right, especially in the crucifixion form, that instead of seeing or extend that vision when you revisit in your memory, in your imagination, meditation, right, instead of ascending up, because this is, I think, the part of the overlay, a filter of misleading, deception, really just hindering. They're just trying to slow down where they can. Is again a savior complex. Someone else is going to save me. I'm going to ascend up and become and leave. Like I think there's going to be some level of soul family reunion.
There's no rapture. You're not leaving. I lift up and then I'm put back down so I can get to work, which is that's the craziest thing.
Yeah, so they talk about that. You'll meet Christ in the sky and you'll be given new bodies. You'll be given a new body, right? That's what they talk about. Okay, but then the Buddhist tradition, they talk about, I think the last times there'll be 1,000 Buddhas on the earth, but it's Christ in you. And so I think it's all the same thing. It's all the solar flash. There's different timelines they were predicting. And the ones that's going to destroy the earth was based on the yugas and all that cycle, but all that's changed. Now that we've come to this new era, the astronomy's different. Nibiru is not coming back. Stop trying to bring it back, people. It's done. That's not coming. Every time they try to come back or they try to create fear porn again, it gets taken care of by higher selves and other things we have in place. But it's not coming back. Right? Those timelines are not going to happen. I know all the archaeology is there. I know the textual history.
That's why none of that information is interesting anymore, because it's like a dead information highway. It's that's cool.
It's no timeline.
Cool story,
bro. It's lost resonance of the earth, so it no longer has familiarity or desire to even talk about it. It's old. It's dead. It's not going to happen. Right?
Correct.
One of my favorite things is, you guys lose and you're just pushing that envelope, and then now I haven't had issue with beings being nefarious in a minute. It's just whatever's going on. It's like we're almost all in here together, and as I'm activated, they want nothing to do with me. They're like, so it's like we're pushing them to the walls and we're rising. I had a meditation where all of my family showed up and offset with the reptilian, the white reptilian, the this, the that. And they were like, "You ready to do this?" And I saw the chessboard form under us. And I said, "I want you to meet my family." And it was, my cats are not on the other side cats. They're other beings. So they all lined up and we were ready to fight. And then Little Bear came up and started growling. And I was like, "Hold on." So the guy was in front of me said, "Oh, are you ready?" And I said, No, what do you come for? And he goes, "Oh, I came to fight." And I said, "No, I brought everyone here to wave goodbye to you, bitch." And then he was like, "What?" And the board went like this, and then we're going up, and then everyone with me started going, nah, right? We just because they hate to be laughed at. They hate it. And they just go off. I'm like, I'm not gonna risk a life to fight you. You're nothing to me. Like, you're literally the end of the line. This out.
Everything spiritual is also physical. That's a morphogenic field. That is a physical thing. It's just outside the visual spectrum, just like Wi-Fi is a physical thing. Not that you can touch it, but it's measurable with our devices. So we would call it, to some level, measurable or physical, right? So morphogenic fields are a measurable physical thing in a sense. When an old morphogenic field falls away, then that resonance is no longer present even in our cellular physiology.
Yeah.
So that's with thought forms too. So if an old timeline has fallen away, the revelation is not happening, Nibiru is not coming back. But now that's gone. But our neurology, we still have neural pathways that believe that. So the biggest thing we can be open to do is being open in our psyche and our consciousness. Like all the unlocking I did was totally sober. Well, fair enough. I have borderline narcolepsy disorder and I was on Adderall for 6 years and I was sleeping 1 to 3 hours a night to make my marriage work, right? But I had to let go of that eventually too to allow this stuff to actually integrate. So the entheogens have helped all the stuff I learned in my mind, my understanding, and in practice, loving people and kindness and forgiveness in your own self and in the way you treat other people. I mean, ultimately, all this cool stuff we're talking about, that's for us because it excites us, and it's stuff that not everybody's going to be into. But the stuff that applies to everybody is the basic shit, man. Treat people well, you know, and treat yourself well.
Well, we always said here at FearLess, we have everything from like it's like Anthony Robbins, right, to interdimensionals, whatever. It's all there. Because on one end you're like learning something with ETs in a sphere and it's Toth, and then you come back here and you apply it and you realize, oh, this is just keeping my house clean and making sure I shower and shave, you know, look presentable, and you feel better, and okay, stretch, and then I'm the energy center. Like I get it. I'm the antenna, right? Like some people have to see that and put it into play that way, and other people can just feel it, and others are just living the best lives they can, and they're doing just as good, if not better, as those of us like myself who are seeing all that and putting it into play. It's just that we all have, dare I say, missions and things that need to be accomplished to one degree or another. Our purpose, which drives us, and that's all that's important to me. So for myself is I will, you know, it's to make connections, tell everyone the story. It's like all the old things fell away, and now I have all these beautiful new things, right? All these beings that are beautiful and awesome. Yeah, we're not. All right, so let's work towards this so we can open those portals, and I can just show up in Seattle and smoke a blunt with you there. And then pass the sugar, come through and be like, high five you. Like, you want to get there. You want that, right? That's what you want. You have to go the organic way. You don't want to cyberlink that stuff. You don't want that, right? You can be the master of the technology on the next level, because the good AI works with you. So you can have it tattooed on your face, and you could look real cool like you're in Mad Max, except you'll be the sweetest, nicest thing on the planet, because you'll be a caretaker for the planet, and things will react to you certain ways, and doors will open, and your blockchain will keep your house safe and activate as you walk in, and won't let nobody in unless they're, you know, part of the family, whatever, through the DNA line. Like, that's all going to work, but you want that. You got to put the work in now. It's best to do it now. At this level, right? Don't worry about what Frank sees, right? There's stories to help you come out, and they're not false stories. That's my reality. Just as others, it's the trauma we choose to heal. I went in like a child wishing to be healed. I didn't know mother. I wasn't aware of none of that stuff. Like, I'm going to go see mother when I drink ayahuasca. I was like, this is going to heal me. And they're like, well, it's up to you to heal yourself, but with her. And I'm like, how much do I got to drink? Like I was
that's a childlike heart, you know. That's all they other teachings too. It's all about the children. They're the way of the kingdom of heaven.
People at this for 30 years or their whole lives or whatever, and they're like, well, you're using ayahuasca and you're cheating to some degree. I'm like, well, then why aren't you teaching?
No doubt.
I've had no one. So you're not out there telling anyone this, and if you are, it's not enough people. So you're judging others on who are literally contracted to open like a flower at this time to help others. Right? That's why I don't get into the whole social thing. I don't show up at places and do talks, and I've had the opportunity to do that. I just don't do it.
And think about different tools for different uses, right? So yours, the ayahuasca helped you grow, helped you heal, so you could be a good person. Right, get a lot of anger and rage and bitterness and like judgments and chauvinism or like whatever stuff over time, and diet and whatever, but helped you be a better person, right? That basic shit you're talking about. And so that stuff, and so when you had the entheogenic experiences, they were whatever you needed to heal those traumas, not just reprogramming unconsciously. You needed the conscious metaphorical interactions with the pantheogen of the Egyptians. They're real things. I'm not negating any of that. This is multiple layered understanding of this psychology and how it applies for our little selves, just to interpret what they actually experienced, you know? So you doing it that way, it was different than where me, I figured out the good person shit. So I'm a really good human being, good citizen, right? Good son, good family member, or learned how to be a good husband, even in a shitty situation. Like I figured that part out. So when I'm doing the entheogenic experiences, it's reprogramming parts of me that I'm still figuring out, but it's now allowing that part of me that's been in resonance in those good human being ways, whatever, right? with the veils that have been there. It's like the entheogens are helping to remove the veils, and the work that Angela did, the actual physical work on my body, you know, removing more of those layers in the skins, like you've talked about before.
Yeah, listen, we are removing this stuff based on our contract to be here, to rise during a certain time, and to open and show you that this can be done. So like this conversation, Aaron just told you just broke it down this whole way. There's someone out there going, yeah, man, just like me. That's what we're here for. Literally, these are the conversations, right? It's not crazy anymore. This is what's happening. This is the great change that's upon us. And to change, what do you have to do? Whatever it is you have to do to change, right? This is why I'm like, and your higher self knows best on what you need to do. Now, what would happen if we drop you in the void and then bring out reptilians? Is that really what you want to see up front? Like I tell people this, like, is that what you want to see? Or do you want to work through that right this very second, or do you want to see that there's something more and just kind of submit to let her teach from the level that you need to be taught at, right? It's not the hero you want, it's the hero you need. So you can become that hero. So you can rise up and become it. And we have all these different venues. It's like the ultimate Rubik's Cube. It's like that one with all the weird sides, right? Like the hexagonal. And we're putting all that stuff back together. And that's really us as a collective. And it's you in your own mind. And it's infinite ways and infinite possibilities, right? So the beings are there, but they're also avatars of energy. But did they walk the earth at one time? Yes. Or maybe they're from over there. Who knows? Maybe they're avatars of the AI. Maybe they're tentacles connected to the evil AI. Maybe it's Mother talking through nature. If it gets you from here to there, does it matter? Shiva's like, does it matter if I'm real? I'm just as real as you in here. And I'm like, what do you mean in here? Right? And he's like, well, you're experiencing 1 through 4. Like that's where you guys are, trapped inside the cathedral. You think you're going to 12, but 12's not in here. It's all simulated to make you think it is. The most high is looking down from the cathedral ceiling at you, and they're all touching fingers like pretty little freaks. It's like, listen, that's not how this works. That's just Anunnaki guy going, you have my DNA. That's what that is. Right. And now you're trapped in there, and it's a reptilian trap, and it's this, that, the other thing. So in here, Shiva needs to get to you through the energy, the blue energy of the color of my skin. And I'm like, yeah, your blue is so beautiful. And through that, I enter. You're just saying you're a man, and you're the most beautiful man I've ever seen. Boom. It made it work more. And the energy just came over me. And then I was able to use it. And I got all the Shiva hands, and I got the little crystal on my head. And then next, so I moved from the Egyptian pantheon to those guys, and then I asked them at this level, so you guys went to war? And they're like, yeah, we kind of screwed up. We don't talk about that, right? You could mention it, but the point is to master all the things that we can teach you inside of that 4D structure, to shatter it, to come out and actually meet us, right?
Totally.
We're representatives through nature. The nature program through Aya, they get in through there.
Expansion of consciousness to expand your understanding.
Because now the pantheon to me is Egyptian, Indian, and whoever. Like it's not. I don't even look at it like that. It's just a pantheon of all beings, because Shiva stands with Ra now, and you know what I'm saying. Like they stand together, and I'm like, well, that's weird. And they're like, well, we had to learn to do this because we're not from here. I'm like, Shiva's not from here. They're not from here. They came from somewhere. And they have this, it's a similar structure, dude. It's like the story's the same, but slightly different everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a Jesus type character, and they go to war with this and that, and they get hung and killed and reincarnated and brought back. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So when they met here, they went to war.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, you know, this whole idea and the experience you're speaking about, it just reminds me of universal galactic consciousness. So we do have beings from different places, and we're all over the planet in this learning place. And this is about unity at all levels. So we've got our earth levels where we're trying to overcome the programs of war, how we're linked into it, how we're physically used by that system. but also up to the other levels of our awareness, where we meet these beings in that realm of consciousness when we take these plant medicines, so that we can have that level of unity in all worlds of our being. So it really becomes quite a beautiful process. And then when you realize that every single one of us has been traumatized in one way, shape, or form, then it begins to shift things. And it's coming back to that whole shape of infinite universality that we're all trying to achieve together. And it's really quite a beautiful thing.
As we swim through life and our experiences, I think for me, so even the name of my excuse me, YouTube channel and business and that whole thing, Expanded Understanding. So in the Christian stream or that river, I kept running into these massive boulders, these massive dams that I couldn't get beyond, right? Because I just knew there's more reality outside of the paradigm I was in. But the paradigm really did explain so many things so well. It was only certain things that were outside of it, so it was okay for a while. I just shelved it, but I keep running these dams, and eventually, by expanding my understanding, by reading outside the canonical text, reading the extra biblical text, it allowed me to. The dam wasn't so much a dam; it was a big boulder that I could swim around, but I had to dig those additional en routes around the structure. Right. But then when you learn, though, your sovereignty and to be in sacred neutral, then you realize you can go right through the dam, like visibly teleport right through it, and then put some hooks in behind you and tear it all down behind you, the structure, an old neurological pathway or a morphogenic field from a system of domination and control. Because you do you, boo-boo, and you heal you, and we heal ourselves, just come into our sovereignty. There's just things, there's less and less, everything that's bad that has us scared is falling away. So let's focus on the beauty that's here and that can be in our bodies, which is her body. And Aya is an incredibly beautiful tool for doing that.
It's amazing. It's for me personally, right? And I know me, I would be dead without her. I would have been dead by now. So for me, I would have been taken off the board completely. I was a mess, spiraling, hit face first, and then came up through every checkerboard. It's like as I spiral up, I had to go on every chessboard that they're playing against us and then just come through the board and shatter it and go, in my world, I'm not on your board anymore. But to do that, I have to appear to you. I have to look in the eye. I have to go, no contract. I have to Shiva on, pull out layers and fight off black goo. Like I had to go through the whole thing, or else I can't do the whole thing, right? If I miss one of those, it's like doing the alphabet. I don't go A, C, F, Z, and then go, oh, I cleared the game. It's like, no, you cheated. Now you have to go back and do B, C, D, so you might as well just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, know what's going on here. And that was my thing. I used to tell Chris Gio this. I'm in the arena. I'm not broadcasting from up there. I'm literally in the arena with these things. So when you're like, this don't exist, but that exists, I'm like, that's a terrible way to look at things because everything's real. Everything exists. You know how I know? I'm connected to everything because I'm the all. And then people get upset when I say, well, it's prime creator. Who do you think is activated in me?
Exactly.
The all. And people are like, oh, he calls himself the all. I'm like, you're the all too. Saying that I'm not is a reflection telling you you're not. Like, well, he can't, so I can, because I can't. No, you can, and I am. So it's okay. You are as well. You need to rise. Anything less than somebody telling you that you're the all, you should not even be bothered with it. Galactic history is cute, but if it at the end they don't say you're the creator inside the human experience, about to lift and rise because it's all about you in the end and in the beginning, blah, blah, right to you to the point, then you don't need it anymore. You literally don't need it.
It's not that it's not true or isn't real at one point in some previous iteration of the universe.
Or
but
some
it's
other
no longer
timeline.
serving you. And it's no longer relevant.
Yes, no longer relevant.
Right now, how do you rise against something like Anu coming in on the cloud? Let's talk about this for a second, right? Like people are still scared of things like, oh, the cat, I can't get near the cat, I'm allergic, right? But Anu's going to come in on the cloud and save you, right? But we don't need to be saved. It's us, the creator, right? So how do you defend against that psychologically and physically being able to witness that is to have people that have transformed enough that could look at something like that and go, nah.
You know what I'd say, Anu, hello, can I have a word with your parents and your grandparents and the elder of your culture? I would say, look, do you think you could possibly come back here and clean up the crappy mess that you've left behind and deal with all the interference and remove it from the planet? Could I put that open offer out to you? Would you like to come here with all your friends, all those that you harvested and took Earth's resources and stole them away for your own personal gain? Would you like to return it?
Yeah,
we're giving you an opportunity for resolution. They'd probably just be so bored and get rid.
I said, when I was confronted with them, I said, did you ask Mother's permission to even do this? And they were like, who? And I was like, Mother Earth, Ayahuasca. Did you ask her? Because I'm a representative of hers. So I'm like, you didn't even ask her permission. You just came in and started doing this stuff. No.
Okay, so even in that, in any moment that there's an intrusion from the Anunnaki or anyone, even the ways they come at you, immediately bring them into a spiritual court of equity with Earth Mother. Immediately, that is where you can discuss things.
And all ancestors.
And all ancestors. That's it. And let her facilitate it. Let her be the. Let her have the security in there to throw somebody out if they're what to say. You're in. What's it called when you're speaking out in court?
When you contempt. You're contempt, you can represent your own views. So that's actually a really good way of removing reptilian contracts, because obviously there's the power structures that are linked into London, a certain royal family members, etc. Put them in a spiritual court of equity. They can't avoid prime creator.
And when you do that, you untie yourself from their grids. So you're also helping to de-energize that structure morphogenically.
And it begins to disappear.
And it disappears from your life first. Because it's now disconnected. So eventually it loses energy over time. Sometimes, like capacitors in a system, you can unplug it. That's why you don't touch it. You got to wait 20 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds to plug your machine back in, because the capacitors have to drain out because they're still charging the circuit board or certain parts of it. So it just takes time. After the week or two after, again, water and clearing and purging, just getting literally things out. And a lot of times people can have, I don't know specifically on Aya, but I know just doing bowel cleanses and mucoid plaque moving and traumas, as it's coming through the last, half hour or last few 10 minutes or so, they go through the most traumatic, like somatic release and sobbing, and like feeling these traumas. And as they pass it through, absolutely gone. All the chemicals, everything that was causing those feelings,
Yes.
It's a whole other dynamic there, man, that we don't take seriously enough, because it's just weird, kind of gross to think about Colima boards and enemas. And like, I have a Colima board. It's one of the best investments you could make, $250 or so to get a board that goes over your toilet. It's all plastic and carved out, and it's got the tubes in a 5-gallon bucket. And you do distilled water, put your prayers into it, crystals, essential oils, teas, herbs, whatever you want. There's all sorts of good ways to alchemize it. And then you cleanse yourself out, man. Most people could handle doing 10 rounds of that over 2 weeks. A 5-gallon bucket, you get up to about body temperature, and it'll change your dream world. You can have traumas pass through without having to do a whole bunch of inner work and counseling and all this stuff. It can just pass through. It is like a shortcut in a sense. It's helping getting us back to homeostasis, because we've been so negatively charged growing up on fast food.
Good shortcuts. There's good shortcuts, right? Like ayahuasca, mushrooms, microdosing.
Enemas,
LSD, urine therapy, like all of this stuff of being a fruitarian, like all of this stuff is a plus positive. You don't have to be one against the other. It all works. It all works together. Right. You don't need to make a separation or something weird.
Absolutely.
It works. Yes. You're a fruitarian. Yes. You're this. Yes. You got that. Yes. Do you mix this with that, and try that? Or are you busy fighting that Bigfoot's real and aliens aren't? I don't
know.
So
it's all about the fruit. Like, if you see the fruit in your life that it's benefiting them to their next level of consciousness or growth or healing or dealing with their issues, or their traumas, or unforgiveness, or whatever that is. And that's where you and I tell different culturally appropriated metaphors for the culture within that we live or grew up in. So obviously you and I can connect because we've been able to transcend just my religion or just your culture and doing ayahuasca one way or all that stuff. We've been able to transcend that, but also understand the value of that. The ways that you structure your ceremonies when you do Aya is very important. You do that with purpose. There's a reason for it. It helps gives a framework that makes them effective.
Yes.
You know, so it's important, but there's also the understanding of your way is not the only way, right? You
Oh,
said it from
for
the beginning.
sure, dude.
Right. And that full
I
integration.
found my niche and grabbed it because it worked every time. But it's that path. It's always that path, right? Like, so it's like you got to do another one if you're going to do that. Like, if you're going to be a mushroom shaman, well, you got to grow mushrooms. You got to have an experience with each and every single one of them. You got to eat them at high doses, at low doses, and in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. You got to be thankful. You got to be disruptive. You got to be a complete jerk so they could lock you out and say, "Don't come back till next time." And then you show up next time. "I'm sorry," and they go, "I just love yourself. We love you."
That's building a relationship with the entheogen.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, so it's not. That's I think that's where that's how shamans can administer plant medicine. They have such an attunement to their medicines internally, physiologically, that they start to resonate with the spirit and the entheogen, and so they know what the person needs. I mean, there's got to be more to that. I mean, think about the Vedic, whatever they do, where they just feel your pulse, and he's like sending people away healed like Jesus from feeling their pulse. Go eat some ghee butter and this, and like lifelong MS goes away, or like just crazy shit, right? From feeling their pulse. So obviously it's tuning into their blood, the morphogenic field, resonance, their epigenetic expression, if we want to put in scientific terms, and whatever way he interprets that energy, he can then think all this data or visions he's seeing or calculations or senses in his being, in his gut. He then says, ghee milk. How the fuck did he come up with the English words ghee milk from whatever he's intuiting? Right? That's amazing. But that's knowing the body. That's knowing our body and the body that's in front of you, because they're all different.
Yes. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're about to turn on all the buttons in our body. That's why I'm a button pusher, because I think subliminally I knew that I was turning on DNA activation, and it was like, oh, what's this do? What's this do? What's this do? And then eventually every button's been pushed, but it's a full activation of knowledge and gnosis within yourself. Know what to push, what not to push. What do you push too soon? It all just reactivates. And then you become, wait for it, bang, 1 through 12, fully activated, clean and clear. It's the whole total package. But the human uniform, the actual technology that you talk about all the time, is built to handle that. But we haven't activated that. It was like programmed to trap us at 4%. But we're going to activate. So 1 through 12, right? So if we're at 4%, right, say we're at just third density activation, it's going to open and just work its way straight up, right? So that's pretty, I'm telling you, it's the best story that is, it's always been there to be told. It's been told everywhere, but now it's so awesome to be retold again from this experience, right? Because you hear it in Star Wars and Transformers and in the video games, and it's across the board. It's within everything. And now we're sitting here relating it back. I'm like, if I had this day one, this stupid picture, I'd be rocking it. I'd be a college professor teaching this stuff. Right? Like I could go 100 directions from this and still make it work back.
And see, that's because
it's the same story again.
The sealing of our ancestors. The sealing of our ancestors is meant to be our floor, right? And that's where we can get trapped in the ways of our ancestors to a point that it becomes a crutch and a thing that holds us down, right? The way they do ayahuasca, the way they do entheogen, you can't do it this way. It's dishonorable to do it that way. There's some truth to that. I get the dynamic. There's wisdom, there's truth. It depends on your heart, intention, and what are you doing? You know, I'm doing unconventional things with medicines, like microdosing DMT at times. Something introduced by someone in the FearLess group that introduced that to me, who lives out here also. And but my point is, my intention going is to build a relationship with the medicine, so I know what kind of tool it is when I'm in front of different skin suits and different scenarios, and how it needs to work in my body in different levels and different intensities and different batches, you know? So like the mushroom thing, same thing. So to me, that's what I've been doing with DMT. So it's not just like I'm trying to be some psychonaut and it's some like ego thing. That's totally irrelevant to me at all. To me, it's my spirit, my being, understanding this is helping me align things that have been shifted in a way that is no longer serving me, my epigenetic expression, and it's helped lining it back up. It's beautiful.
The whole thing is beautiful as it unlocks, but I'll tell you, it's been a real shit show up to this point, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm never doing this again, ever.
The beautiful thing. Yes. So I'm not here to do this again. I'm not. I've already
No.
reincarnated
Ever.
infinite amount of times. I'm done. My timelines are collapsed. I'm the
Yep.
singularity. You're
Yep.
the
Yeah, thank you very
singularity.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man,
All things are gonna go back to you,
dude,
so you can
turn
have
around,
that.
Ho'oponopono, goodbye,
Yeah, but
done.
this
Don't do it in
time
the
I'm
beginning.
taking my body with me. That's
Hmm.
the great thing for me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, what do you mean? This is so my dead relatives and friends or whatever that have come to me, including William Whitecrow, a shaman, when he passed a few years ago. I was crying. He showed up, and then he was on the level I was talking about earlier, but it was like 6 feet high, and he was like, "Don't you dare cry for me." I seen it happening then. I'm like, there's a place there that you're at, and you're not coming back. My Uncle Eddie, I'm like, we're flying around in space right now. You're showing me some cool stuff, but why aren't you back yet? It's been 20 years. He's like, why would I come back? Everyone's coming here. I'm like, so does that mean everyone dies in the Kali Yuga? And he's like, no, dummy, you're gonna take your body and come here. Then I meet every different character. You just name one. I'm sitting with Ganesh, and he's like, wow, I'm so proud of you. You're gonna take your body with you up into the higher realms. It's never been done. Having a physical presence with
Yeah.
a human flesh suit in this realm, holding the god body. Like, I was like, wait, what? He's like, oh, you don't know who you are? Take a look. And then flashing me a black background and then a pinhole, and then the light comes through, just a pinhole, and I fall to my knees begging for, this is so awesome, I can't handle it. And then the wall coming down and blinding me, and then it's just me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, nah, ain't nobody can handle that. They're like, oh, you can handle that. They can handle that. We're gonna handle this. And I'm like, okay. To her aunt, to my grandmother, to two of my friends that passed, laughing at me, going, you don't even know who you are yet. This gets ridiculous on levels that you haven't even thought of yet, because your mind
Yeah.
is only working at a few percent, and your
Yeah.
awareness still, even with Frank's ability to see up and down. I still step in the pothole and sprain my ankle. I get up in the morning and there's cat throw up, and I slip across the room in it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
Yeah.
heroes don't wear capes; they just clean up shit. You know, and that's
I hear you. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's an absolutely fascinating point to make. Is talking about the souls that are desperate to incarnate now, because it really is all changing. So there might be an increase in birth rates, all kinds of things, but definitely it is the place to be. And there are people who have committed suicide who are absolutely regretting it on the soul level, because they're not getting the opportunity to come back immediately. It's like there's a waiting list.
yes, because this is it. All right, so the great experiment, you call it whatever you want. All eyes are on Earth right now. Earth is the living library. To even be
Yeah.
born here, you're born with the living library in you that can house the creator of all, prime
Come on.
creator, source. And let me tell you, Anu and those guys, I think they go as high as 6. I think, right? Because that's like how far you can push it. Another one, I'm still like, I'm twice your age plus 5. Get out of here, right? Like, you're encompassing all of that stuff plus what you are over there here, condensed into this body, into a lighter realm. And it's the best story in the universes, in any universe. It's never happened.
Yeah.
Free will and all that other stuff, we're doing it. We were
Yeah.
capable as a species to pull this off, right? And
Yeah.
it's the impossible task to ask of any being.
Yeah, it is possible, and it's a conscious, sacred awareness of self and how you move through it all, how you engage, right living, your clean consciousness, in whatever way it takes, where you just don't hurt anyone, and it's literally that simple on many levels.
Yeah. Right. So we're
Dude,
just anchoring the light and pulling us into those higher realms. We create like the rainbow bridge from Thor. You're actually that link. You're like one side of it in that portal, and then it goes up to that realm, and we're like cranking ourselves up to it. We're like, no, this is the timeline we want this. Whereas we've been influenced through distraction for every other bullshit thing, and now we're like, nope, no more, thanks.
Exactly.
Just think about the Book of Revelation and the other ones. The David Wilcock solar version of the solar flare. It's supposed to kill most people on Earth, and then those who are not raptured or abducted or whatever. I'm not sure David Wilcock's whole thing, but the point is that the sun is going to increase in heat, and only the righteous shall be spared. So what I think that's all they were planning on, having a lot more domination control in effect by now. Even just Hillary getting elected, World War III happening, being able to reset, kill who they wanted before the sun heated up, then they can get their underground bunkers and caverns that they have globally all over the world, because they're millions of years old, right? So what's actually coming in are solar codes to upgrade our DNA. That's why the chemtrails are still going. They're just trying to slow it down as much as they can, refract the light, refract the photonic and the wave expression with the cell towers and all that. But it's fading away. It's losing strength, and the sun is gaining strength. Just like the article that came out in May, I think it was May, where they had that massive explosion from the central galactic sun of an emanation they've never ever seen in recorded history ever. Just all these blasts of new radiation and waves and all this stuff coming out. And that's resonant with what's going on in our sun. The singularity of the central galactic sun is with all the other suns. So whatever's happening there is also coming through our sun. So I think it's not going to burn us, because they don't have enough nanotech in place in the ways they wanted. They don't have the morphogenic fields to power up the nanotech to shut down our immune system so that it would burn us. Immune system, for lack of a better term, all of our systems, light body systems, the different implants, theoretical implants, physical implants, all that stuff. But those are being powered down. So now the sun's coming in, it's not burning us, it's upgrading everybody, whether they like it or not. Now, if you're in a really significant rut of bitterness or hatred, and you refuse to give it up, your body will probably continue to get more decrepit and you might die early. But if we would just deal with our shit,
or they just radiate the planet, and then that happens, and then they blame our radiated bodies riddled with cancer on the light that came from the sky. Yeah, it's a hoax. It's a giant hoax. All it is incoming new energy. All those suns are portals linked to the galactic central sun and everywhere else. When you blow up pictures of the tree like behind you, you see all those interconnected weaving energies interlining the whole photo behind you. That's the interweavings of the universes, connected through everything, connected through suns and lights and everything,
and through the vagus nerve and through us.
Yeah, and we're literally that stuff. We're all of that, right? They built the suit that's the grand experiment. We're going to build a suit that can house this kind of being. And Source was like, okay, there's a bunch of creators. They're on the planet.
A bunch of infidel scientists.
Renegade.
Well, see, the trick came in, right? Like, it sounded like a good idea at the time, but what happened is they programmed the suit to do what it's supposed to do, and then reprogram it to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, basically.
That's what happened, right? Oh no! So when you get in, you're like, "What's happening?" And they go, "Look at us, we are your gods." And you're like, "Oh, I have complete amnesia. What's happening to me? Why do I have fingers?" Right? Like, that's a big ayahuasca when I'm sitting there. I have hands. It's like, yeah, to pick shit up, stupid. And it's like, no, ramification.
What's amazing about this conversation on a higher level, right? So we soul contracted in the probabilities of the future timelines, which variables. This thing with soul contracts, they're not as rigid as people think, right? Especially when you put your awareness on them, they're pretty fluid. Change what you want, because you're sovereign, motherfucker, right? Your soul contracts are yours. So anyway, to be able to be in a place knowing these conversations are going to happen, and knowing that if we got to this place and things fell in this way, you would sit there and bitch about the dynamics of 3D life, right? And how hilarious that was too. And even talk about a higher level, remembering that when we came in, that we planned that this was going to happen, that we thought it was a good idea. Right? But that's a conversation we energetically saw ahead of time. And it's the first time it's ever happened, will ever happen again, that it was just spoken through actual bodies, in voices, through this dynamic. And that makes it so precious.
It's like the avatar is finally connecting to the higher self. So those conversations that happen there, that spiral down to take time to play out, actually play out. And you're like, oh snap. So it's like as above, so below at that one now moment. It's like, yes, they're finally getting it.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, to dissect this too, to science it a little bit, to slow it down. Because what I noticed in that moment when you two were engaged, I mean, all of us were, but I was stepping back and observing that dynamic. Like, we thought it was a good idea. That was 100% higher self Frank and higher self Angela laughing at that joke. 100%, going back millions of years, planning this and laughing through. Like, it was 100%. Now, how aware were you in that moment that that's what was happening? If you agreed that that's what was happening,
I was too busy being in the now moment to feel it.
Yeah,
it feels like I'm channeling.
Yes.
So like I'm channeling my higher self. So
Yeah.
I'm just living the moment. So yeah, it's all going on at once.
Okay, but because
What I was actually thinking was like, Frank, right? You came in around the same time as me. Do you remember that? Do you remember that really crappy scenario where it all went wrong?
It looked so good in the
That's what I
beginning,
was
though.
thinking. So you were right.
see, and so
Do you remember those infidel scientists, Frank?
I remember all that stuff, and even when I talk about that around here, I get and I'm like, no, I'm telling you, man. They even try to help me multiple times because I hurt my back, and they're able to like lift me off the ground like a soda can. And then this guy was like, "What did you do?" And I go, "Why do you look just like me and my dad?" And he's like, "Oh, well, you're." And I go, "Why do you use all their beard?" Was like braided and awesome. I said, "You have hair," and he goes, "Well, you're rocking the Egyptian thing." I go, "No, I don't have hair, so I just shaved my head. But your hair is braided and beautiful with my face and my dad's face on it." He's like, "Yeah, you have my DNA, so I'm helping you." And I'm like, "Why'd you do this to begin with?" Right? And he was like, "No, I just created the body." And I'm like, "Oh, no. You're not talking your way out of this shit. Back up. Why'd you do this?" He's like, "Because we could." And I was like, "Oh, so you build us in your image?" And then he's like, "Yeah, but we built you to encompass the creator gene. Like you have everything, not just what we look like, right? That's just DNA activation. You have all of the DNA in you." And I was like, "Oh, so I could get big like you one day." He's like, "You'll be able to do whatever you want."
Frank, oh, here's a beautiful. Let me balance out some of my traumatizing DMT experiences I've shared with a beautiful one. So part of it made sense in the experience. I remembered back actually to another was a session I had with Angela when she was in the UK and reading through some prayers and things she's written that are unprecedented and just took me places when I was just tuning in to my being, consciousness, and healing things and experiencing things. Just like sober, well, maybe a little Lady C, but mainly sober, dynamic. And then I had this experience on DMT of experiencing the fractal that I am, that this Aaron Michael Kessler is a singular experience. So yes, I am all of everything else, and my own experience is even a higher level and everything else. But this little self, this heartbeat, is the only time it'll ever exist in all of universal history ever, and has ever existed before. You know, and how valuable that is. And oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, what was it? What was the thing? What was the saying? Oh, I just start going down the river and then I get distracted by something. Oh shoot, what was I saying right before that?
Were you talking about activation?
My fault, guys. I'm like orchestrating and then I stop mid sentence and you're like, I don't know. You were going somewhere and I don't know. I'll come back to it.
The time.
Oh, that's what it was. You guys are talking about higher self interaction. So, okay, so another dynamic of that. So you said it felt like you were channeling your higher self. So just to be picky with words here because of what channeling can mean. So channeling to me, and I get what you mean, channel is really a channel, right? You're opening a frequency, but to go both ways, to let it in. But it comes through your mouth. You choose to open your mouth to speak however you want to speak, or how much of it you want to influence your speech patterns and, seen and unseen. Just because you're choosing to come into some kind of agreement with it, to resolve karma for it, or whatever, to express itself, or something like that. When it's yourself, when it's your own higher self, your own wise self, your own spirit, your own soul, the terminology that makes sense to me more is it's yourself seeding into yourself, because you're physically right here with us, but I'm seeing layers of dimensions of you guys discussing this from millions of year old perspective and deep laughter as deep friends who really find it fucking funny, right? Because that's true and you can see it. So that's your higher selves embodying your little selves now in the middle of an engagement. That is integration, that is ascension, but by embodying.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to bring all that together into one moment. That's when we're talking about that infinity sign, when we hit the X point and you have to cross through there. that is the singularity. X marks the spot where that guy and this guy become one.
Yes.
Even though you are one, but I'm talking about every timeline, every multiverse, every piece of you exist in that one spot in this, and that's what you
Yeah.
become, and then go into the next loop, which has never been
Done before.
yeah, we just don't know. And that, but
Yeah.
once again, it goes back to it's going to be great for us.
It is, and what happened at that moment is that all the others collapsed into a vague memory of the past, and then the system became irrelevant in that moment.
Yes.
Okay, I remember what I was saying. So I saw this DMT experience being fractaled off for this incarnation. So from the perspective of my fractal before, like embodying Aaron. So it's like Aaron was being able to see, like be present for the birth of my fractal.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like it was beautiful. Like you would imagine the most beautiful birth to be, or family, I don't know, whatever that is to you. But the most beautiful thing ever, and the wonder and the sounds and the orchestras and the angels, if you will, but it's your own selves. Like this is a piece of me, us, I am, that has never existed before and is going to be physically present at the transition. You know, like I got to experience that. I've had, so as terrible as some of my experiences have been, it's the worst of my existence in this physical body. Awful. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not. It's a sobering medicine. Like you go in, you gotta grow a big pair of balls or ovaries pretty much every time, because you don't know. You just don't know until you get to a place of relationship where you know your body and it knows you, and then it's more fluid. You know, and yeah, more friendly. This is a relationship, which makes sense, right? But yeah, so the entheogens is awful. Some of them have been worse. The most beautiful experience of my life have been through DMT, also like that birthing one, and there's others. Really cool, man. They're amazing medicines.
Yes, look, it's not for everyone, but everyone should do it. But it's not for everyone.
It really isn't. It really isn't for everybody.
You know, some of my closest friends are like, "Nah, I'm never touching that," and I know they're fragile. I know everything is just, it's either fear or love. So when they reject immediately, they're like, no, keep that away from me. I'm like, oh, but you'll do cocaine if I throw it in front of you. They're like, oh yeah, I'll eat that shit up. You got Adderall, you got this, you got that. And you're like, come on, dude, really?
Oh my God.
You're trying to escape something to get to a place, and this is the thing that actually takes you to that place. And you're going this route. Yeah, it's like the distraction's way of getting you, the system's way of getting you to now look over here. You're not the all. And you're like, yeah, just escapism. Let me just escape this horrible mess by doing rails off a hooker. It just gets crazy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm telling you, all
right.
of that stuff is, all that weird shit leaves. Not that I've ever done that. I'm just saying that weirdo stuff in your mind goes, you break free from it and you realize what it is. It's like an external thing. You hear the whispers in your ear, even though it sounds like you. You're like, that's not me. Like you become aware of it, which makes you responsible for it, which then makes you master of it, because you become, I'm like, man, I drive my car, right? My car is for me. Your hand should not be on any of the devices. Don't touch the radio. Asking you if you're a passenger in the car, what are you even doing here?
Yeah.
It's a vehicle built for one. So I don't want your hand on my wheel or anything else. You know, I don't even want to hear you in the back seat going, like, shut up. That's how I handle my vehicle, because I hear it all. Just as much as I see it, I have to hear it. They'll whisper behind me like, "Hey, we're gonna get him." I'm like, I could hear you, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're done." And then it's silent. And I'm like, how do they keep getting in? And you realize you were being a little bit of a salty hag earlier in the day, and that brings stuff in. Oh, my back. Oh, my head. Why this world sucks again? And then boom, there they are. And you're like, that's you just vibrating. Wait, let me wait for it. Boom. It brings you back into this, right? Brings you back down to the 4, 3, 2, 1. You want to be up high. And when you're up high, at first you feel like you can pop. Right, so we just start levitating up into these directions, and then when we come down, you start realizing it sucks. It feels bad.
And then, and also, so if you turn it 90 degrees, It's a poop shoot, man, right through the heart. Got to get all that crap out of the heart, man. All the bitterness and unforgiveness and resentment and, you know, resistance to letting trauma pass through, which is fair.
It also looks
People
like
feel that way.
like an umbilical cord that would come out of the belly button.
Yeah. Into another womb. Like that last spiral on the right is another womb encompassing all of it to a new existence.
Yeah, it looks like it is the uterus from one side.
Oh, that,
or
yeah.
cervix.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
And
everything is
overtake
built on these principles.
Yep. Birthing. Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I mean, in the greatest ways.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
literally all right there. No one person just has it correct. It's all literally correct.
Well, so, and yeah, right there, like I was saying earlier, I think it's one of my distracted thoughts, but so that with the ancestors' ceiling is our floor. So we honor them, we thank them, we enjoy the framework they've given us, that Angela and her generation of light working and the things they've done to the systems of domination and control. We couldn't be here if that didn't happen. You know, that's what held space for you to develop the way you did publicly with ayahuasca and not get shut down, even though they tried. Right? It's for me to even be present the way I am here, whether I'm on the internet or not. But to be on the internet, you know, the fact that these things are even allowed, that's how things have changed.
Yeah, it's like that game was cute and now it's over. We're not playing that game anymore. We're actually not playing a game.
Yeah,
We're just going to enjoy our lives now
exactly.
and create and do what we were actually it's what we do. It's just what we do.
Made to find a way out. Then you get into open pastures and you're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Where are the mountains?
What now?
Where are the obstacles? What do I do?
Oh, there aren't any.
Yeah, what?
Oh.
Hey, wait a second. Yeah, really.
It's scary because some people get released from prison and want to go back to prison because they felt
Exactly.
it was a lot safer inside that prison.
Neurological pathways, just old patterns that make us feel a level of comfort, attention, you know, familiarity. The shit you know is much better than the shit that potentially could be way worse if you leave that behind.
Yeah, or
you know,
way
that's
better.
the fear. Well, I know, but that's the fear though. They have to
I
believe
know.
and have faith that okay, like using the Christian metaphors. So if, let's say Jesus really did, at least in the story, endured the cross. He allowed himself to be crucified. Okay, so he was this being. It says that he could have called down angels to get him off the cross, but he said he was submitting to it because of the purpose of it, the metaphor and whatever. Okay, but that's horrific. The torment he went through, lashing and ripping down to his rib cage, is open all over his body, all that stuff. I mean, that's shoot, I did it again. What was my train of thought, Angela? What were we saying right before that? You guys gotta just realize if I start to go on a stream, to stay 2 steps behind me so you know where I'm at, because I'm gonna lose my way.
Oh, sorry. I was colouring in the trees around the side of the picture.
Oh, nice.
So what strain is that you're smoking?
That's the green cocaine, green crack. Sorry.
Ah, green crack.
Yeah, this stuff means space Jesus be slinging. Green crack.
All right. Well, listen. If you'd like, we can hold off and we can do another one of these soon. I have to kind of make a run. We're at this 2.5 hour mark, and
Wow.
it's definitely dinner time for me here.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
But I want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to be here. Aaron, Angela, thank you so much. FearLess family. We're connecting, reuniting, expanding. Keep your thought. We'll get back to it later, right? And then
yeah. Oh, fine. It'll come up, I'm sure. Yeah.
Listen, there's so much to be said about this that we could go on and on because it connects to the all. So it's just forever. So knowing that, keep that thought alive within you and just know that it's you. That's the basis of this whole thing. It's you. Yep. It's important to be you. And I'm happy that we're all here in this now moment together. It's great. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm grateful and I'm thankful. My name's Frank Castle. That's Aaron. That's Angela. And we're the FearLess family. And this is FearLess Conversations. You guys have a great night tonight. I love you. See you soon and stay fearless. Remember, the universe rewards bravery. Love you guys so much. Peace.
Bless you.
Love you too.